Chapter 427. Ming, it seems like we have already attracted other people's attention this time. Paper can't wrap fire. Once other people know that I have so many rare treasures with me, they will immediately be surrounded by a large group of evil wolves. They may attack us at any time to take a bite out of us. Ling Long Pavilion, we can't stay in this auction any longer. The longer we stay, the more dangerous it will be. Di Shitian kept thinking. Since Yu Linglong left, he had been thinking about what to do in the future. This transaction was really too big, so big that it was frightening. Taking out more than 200 source seeds of life in one go was really too eye-catching. With the Linglong Pavilion's ability, it was impossible that they wouldn't notice him. He was afraid that someone was watching him right now. It wasn't hard to think about it, and it was human nature. Now, he could even guess what other people were thinking. Since he could take out more than 200 source seeds of life in one go, did it mean that he had more source seeds of life in one go? This kind of thinking gave rise to greed. Di Shitian was never one to entrust his safety to others. He just closed his eyes for a while, then opened them again. He looked at Bai Hu and said, "Tian Xiong, we can't stay in the Linglong Pavilion any longer. The things I bought here are enough to attract many people's attention. If we continue to stay here, after the auction is over and we leave Linglong Immortal Island, we will probably be attacked and killed. Let's go. We will leave now." After he finished speaking, he waved his hand. A faintly discernible illusory air suddenly rushed out of his body and covered the whole VIP room. It completely covered everything inside. Regardless of whether it was the divine consciousness, the naked eye, or even some rare treasures that could observe this place from a distance, none of them could see what was going on inside. We really can't stay here any longer. This matter is definitely not small. Fortunately, we have the mirage illusory air to cover our bodies and disguise ourselves. Otherwise, we would definitely be in big trouble in the future. The white fox's eyes that were filled with intelligence flickered with a wisp of strange brilliance. The corners of its mouth revealed a trace of craftiness and a wisp of playfulness as it said, "Shitian, I feel that we can deliberately set up a formation to confuse the public and divert the attention of others away from us." A fox was indeed a fox. She was quick-witted and intelligent. In the blink of an eye, she came up with a plan. With Mirage's illusory air as a barrier, he could plan boldly, but after a while, he left. Leave the VIP room, leave Linglong Pavilion. As soon as they left the Linglong Pavilion, they found that someone was following them closely with their divine sense. This wasn't unexpected. After leaving the Immortal Island, Dark immediately used its ability to hide them. At the same time, a green orchid-like spirit leaf fell into each of their hands. They spat it out without hesitation. Immediately after consuming the spirit leaf, a mysterious cold chi rose up from within his body. It passed through his flesh and blood, filling his entire body in an instant. Then, his entire body, from top to bottom, completely disappeared in an instant. It was as if the weight of his entire body had completely disappeared in an instant. His entire body was like air, weightless. With just a thought, he could float up. What a magical spirit leaf. I heard that when you made a bet with the Princess of Dragon Palace on the Smoky Wave Island, you used an unknown mysterious method to make your body invisible. No matter how she used all kinds of divine sense and secret methods, she couldn't find you. I think you did it with this kind of spirit essence. Bai Hu witnessed her body disappear like an illusion in an instant. Her entire body seemed to have become nothingness, as if it didn't exist in the world. It was very magical. This is the illusory spirit leaf. After consuming it, your body will turn into nothingness in an instant. In this state, it's even better than being invisible. Even immortals and Buddhas can't find it or feel it. Although it only lasts for 15 minutes, it's the best life-saving trump card if used well. Di Shitian nodded and said in a deep voice, "Let's act according to the plan now. After the auction is over, you leave with Rock Demon King and others. And I will return to Southern Barbarian." "Okay." Bai Hu smiled slyly and said, "Shitian, don't forget that we had an agreement in Southern Barbarian. Don't forget the Qingqiu Mountain Agreement. If you don't come that day, don't blame Tianxiang for hating you for a lifetime." I will never forgive you. After that, she waved her long sleeves gently and turned around to walk into the pavilion of delicacy again. With the magical power of the illusory spirit grass, after coming out of the pavilion of delicacy, she entered again silently. However, this time, she didn't enter the room where she stayed with Di Shetien, but the VIP room where Rock Demon King and others were. No one noticed that there was one more person in the room. Although Silver Hair and others were puzzled, they didn't ask more. Di Shetien didn't immediately leave this ice and snow area with the help of the illusory spirit grass. He turned around and walked into the Tower of Babel without hesitation. He entered the tower again. Impossible. How could they disappear without a trace under my surveillance? Could it be that they are not mortals, but immortals from the heavenly realm? No, I have to report to the Tower Master immediately. After Di Shetien and Bai, who took the illusory spirit grass and turned their bodies into nothingness and disappeared without a trace, they quickly left according to the plan. In the sky above that area, a man in green appeared out of thin air without any warning. His strength was so high that no one could tell how strong he was. It turned out that he was an expert following them. A tyrannical divine sense shot out from his body and scanned the surroundings inch by inch, just like Li Tian, before he finally gave up and left. Just like when he first appeared, the green figure mysteriously disappeared. The next moment, 30 minutes after 30 minutes, there was still no abnormal movement in the surroundings. In the air, the man in green appeared again. He frowned slightly and looked a little pale. They are really not here. Then he gave up and returned to Ling Long Celestial Island. As expected, the higher one's cultivation was, the more cunning one's mind would be. None of them were innocent. He wanted to trick Di Shetien here, but he didn't expect that Di Shetien had already turned around and entered the Tower of Babel. This trick is called darkness under the light. Even if others are as cunning as foxes, they can't guess my identity. Who would have thought that I would enter the Tower of Babel alone instead of leaving? Di Shetien entered the tower and felt the space around him change. When he looked again, he found himself in the sky above a vast sea area. The blue sea water was surging. Fish jumped out of the sea. Those fish were fierce. Their mouths were full of sharp teeth, shining with cold light. Their mouths were several times bigger than their bodies. They were piranhas. There were many islands around. Some of the islands were full of vitality, while some were desolate and lifeless. Some were big, some were small. They were standing on the sea. They found an island that was covered by trees and landed on it. Splash! Just as he landed, a lizard whose entire body was covered in scales suddenly scuttled out from the forest. It was ferocious and terrifying, and its tail, which was covered in scales, ferociously whipped toward Sakra's waist with the force of 1,000 catties. The great force made the air around them oppressive and made sonic booms. It was as fast as lightning. Almost instantly, he appeared behind Di Shetien, leaning sideways. Humph! Di Shetien seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. He suddenly reached out his hands and caught the lizard's tail in the air. He grabbed it. His 10 fingers were like hooks, shining with a metallic luster. They were sharper than sharp blades. They broke the scales directly and stabbed into the flesh. Suddenly, blood burst out. He grabbed the lizard's tail and snorted. The muscles on his arms were surging like dragons. He was a second transformation demon core expert, and an expert who walked the ancient path of demon cultivation. Just the strength of his flesh and blood was more than 10,000 catties. He grabbed the lizard tail, his eyes cold and his black hair wild behind his head. He looked like a demonic god. Bang, bang, bang. The lizard spun and slammed crazily into the towering ancient trees in the surroundings, breaking a large number of ancient trees and smashing them to the ground. Terrifying cracks appeared on the ground like a spiderweb, densely spreading in all directions. Terrifying, fierce, almost like a demon god. It was as if he was not holding a savage beast in his hand, but a terrifying savage beast with endless brute force. A fierce lizard was smashed into meat paste by him. He chopped some branches, set up a firewood, and put the lizard on the fire to barbecue. The barbecued skin was peeled off, and the meat was golden. Then, He gobbled it up in big bites. In just one meal, he had swallowed a huge lizard that was at least 30 meters long. His appetite was really shocking. Crazy DI, are you planning to go into seclusion in the Tower of Babel? Could it be that you want to break through the checkpoint in one go through the 3-9 demonic tribulations and enter the third transformation of your monster core? Dark suddenly asked after watching him finish eating. After the cleansing of the huge amount of essence chi in the blood altar, the Huangji true force in my body has reached the limit of the second transformation of my monster core. If I don't break through, it will be difficult for me to improve. Moreover, you know my current situation. It's fine if I don't expose myself. But once I do, I don't know how many people want me dead. This prince does not wish to rely on others. Only by relying on oneself and continuously becoming stronger can I continue to stand tall and not fall. Breaking through is a must. Sakura said with unusual firmness. He was very clear about the environment he was in. In a situation where he didn't have any ability to obtain treasures that were far more valuable than what he could have now, in a word, that was putting himself on the fire to roast. If he didn't want to die, he could only become stronger, to the extent that he could ignore those flames. Strong enough to plant a golden lotus in the fire. But if he wanted to go into seclusion and make a breakthrough, he couldn't think of any place better than Skysplit Tower. Here, not only could he avoid the attention of those outside, he could also have a quiet place to cultivate without being disturbed. Skysplit Tower, one of the 9 great forbidden zones, was the best place for him to go. Good. 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 You have to break through. Your realm is not a problem. You cultivate the Emperor's Tao. After the fight in the Pavilion of Delicacy, your intent realm has increased greatly. However, you have to be careful of your desire when breaking through. In the realm of desire, you have to rely on your own temperament. If anything goes wrong, you will be consigned to eternal damnation. As long as you successfully break through to the third transformation of Monster Core, with the huge amount of essence chi left in your body by the blood altar, the exquisite pagoda's ability to reverse time and space, and a large amount of spirit wine, you can absorb the endless power of desire that is everywhere in the world. With the rich spiritual chi of heaven and earth, you will be able to reach the peak of the third transformation in no time and touch the threshold of the ancient demon king. The stronger Di Shitian was, the happier it was. This also meant that it had a higher chance of getting the Book of Underworld. Just like before, in a hidden place, he found a towering ancient tree and dug a hole in the tree. He placed the exquisite pagoda inside and shrunk it to the size of a speck of dust that could not be seen with the naked eye. Then, he threw himself into the pagoda. The first transformation could only reverse time 10 times compared to the outside world. The second transformation could reverse time and space 50 times. It was a shocking 1:50 ratio. A day in the outside world would be more than 2 months inside. A year in the outside world would be 50 years inside. This time, he decided to cultivate in seclusion for a year. This year was the time in the outside world. In other words, as long as he was in the second transformation, it would be 50 years. After entering the second level, he found himself in the same lush green grassland. Then, he sat down on the ground. Spiritual light flashed from his storage ring, and he saw a stone with 7 orifices floating in front of him. It was surrounded by a 7-colored halo, and looked just like a human. 7 orifices, exquisite stone. Legend had it that in this world, there was a type of person with a miraculous physique. The heart in their body was not an ordinary heart, but the 7 orifices' exquisite heart. If a mortal had this heart, then in the mortal world, they would be loyal and courageous, and their name would go down in history. An extremely powerful official. It was the kind of existence that was second only to one person and above millions of people. And if one had the physique of an immortal cultivator and cultivated, they would be a peerless genius that was rarely seen in 10,000 years. Within 1,000 years, they would definitely reach the immortal realm and become a peerless genius. However, no matter which one it was, after they died, the 7 orifices' exquisite heart in their body would absorb all their essence, chi, and strength into the exquisite heart. And the 7 orifices' exquisite heart would slowly turn into a stone. This was the origin of the 7 orifices exquisite stone. What was even more magical was that it could continuously absorb the power of heaven and earth, making itself stronger and bigger. No matter where it was placed, it was a rare material for refining weapons in the world. It was hard and difficult to destroy. The one in front of him was in the shape of a heart, but its size was twice that of an ordinary heart. Its entire body was surrounded by 7-colored divine light. It was impossible for it to grow to such a size without thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Then, a box of stellar essence was taken out. Even the divine meteorite metal was taken out and placed in front of him. Although Ao Chen had bought a box of stellar essence, Linglong Pavilion had a deep foundation after all. When they saw that it was on the list that Di Shitian pointed out, they took out another box without hesitation. These 3 materials were all rare treasures in the world. Lunatic Di, why are you taking these things out instead of going into seclusion? Could it be that you want to refine some treasure? Dark said with a hint of surprise. These were all materials for refining weapons, and each of them was extraordinary. They were all treasures that he had bought before. It thought about it and said in surprise, could it be that you want to refine the soul refining pot that you mentioned before? The soul refining pot. That was the mysterious jade slip that said that it could smelt all kinds of materials in heaven and earth together with the power of faith into a unique divine crystal. It was not in the 3 realms or the 5 elements. It could be said to be the pinnacle of the fusion of the immortal path and the divine path. And the key was to refine the soul refining pot. If not for the fact that the soul refining pot required extraordinary materials, he would have already started refining it. That's right, the soul refining pot. It's time to refine it. Even if I can't absorb the power of faith to increase my cultivation, I must use it to refine the divine crystal. Di Shitian's eyes glittered as if they could see through everything. There was an extremely firm determination in them. The peerless divine city in his mind hadn't disappeared until now. Using a set of 4 top-grade innate spirit treasures as the city walls, using the innate spirit treasure cloud-gathering banner to gather tens of thousands of auspicious clouds to support the divine city, soaring above the 9 heavens. Using materials that were not part of the 5 elements as the foundation of the city, and using the 5-colored divine soil as the mud to build the divine city, absorbing countless restrictive formations, transcending the 5 elements and standing above the heavens. It could be said to be the Eon God city that had never existed before. He felt his blood boiling just by looking at it. There was only one thought in his mind, which was to refine it at all costs. Either he didn't refine it at all, or he would refine it into a supreme city like this. Therefore, the soul refining pot had almost reached the point where he had to refine it. Seclusion. Refining the soul refining pot was the most important thing that he had to do in seclusion. With the 7 orifices exquisite stone as the main body, the star essence gold, the meteorite divine iron, and the power of faith as the furnace fire, the soul refining pot that was refined would definitely be a rare treasure. The power of faith from incense, with my blood as the medium, turn into the divine fire and refine all things. Kai. Di Shitian closed his eyes and meditated. He adjusted his mind to the best state. After calming down completely, a solemn expression appeared on his face. He stretched out his index finger, and a drop of dark red blood essence was forced out by the royal true force. It was sparkling and translucent like a gem. After cultivating until now, his flesh, blood, bone marrow, and demon veins had all been cleansed time and time again. He was constantly moving in the direction of the indestructible body. Even the blood in his body had been changed several times. Every time it was cleansed, the demon blood in his body would become purer and more free of impurities. Even the blood contained an extremely large amount of energy. Once he reached the indestructible body, even if there was only a drop of blood left, he could be reborn again. The indestructible body was not something that could be achieved in a day. It was just like this, continuously transforming time and time again. This drop of blood essence flew in front of him, and immediately, the power of faith from the incense that was transmitted from the underworld immediately poured into it. Puff. With a sound, the drop of blood seemed to be boiling. With a soft sound, it suddenly turned into a wisp of golden flame that was as thin as smoke. It was abnormally weak. It swayed with the wind as if it would be extinguished at any time. This is the divine fire recorded in the mysterious jade slip that can be used to refine a divine artifact. I can't let it go out. Di Shitian's expression became more and more calm. He carefully poured wisps of power of faith into the divine fire as fuel to strengthen the divine fire. It's going to be a new month soon. If you have a guaranteed monthly vote, please help me cast a few votes and rush up the rankings. In the new month, I will also be full of energy and shine with my passion. For the construction of the ancient god city, I invite all brothers to contribute together. Also, I would like to thank the poet for secretly helping me advertise everywhere. Thank you. Chapter 428. Splurt. The divine fire used the power of faith as nutrients, and it was the fundamental fire of a cultivator of the path of godhood. Although Sakra didn't cultivate the path of godhood and didn't have any divine power in his body, the method of using his blood essence as a medium wasn't lacking in the slightest. From the void, he extracted the power of faith that was connected to him and poured it into the divine fire. The god flame, which had been on the verge of going out at any moment, seemed to have eaten some sort of tonic pill, and was visibly growing stronger. The size of a sesame seed. The size of a grain of rice. The size of a soybean. As the incense and power of faith poured into it, the god flame grew stronger and stronger. A moment later, it was the size of a soccer ball. The golden flame floated in the air, emanating a holy and inviolable aura. It was like the might of the heavens, like a god's domain. Anyone who saw it couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and veneration. Everything in the area was bathed in golden light. Although there didn't seem to be any heat spreading out, there seemed to be an extremely terrifying power contained within the flames. When it erupted, it could incinerate everything in the surroundings into ashes. It could completely turn everything into nothingness in the divine flames. So this is the god flame cultivated by the Tao of Godhood, Di Shitian said. It's completely different from the Samadhi true fire cultivated by cultivators, or even the demon fire of the demon folk. I can sense the incredible power contained in this god flame. No wonder. No wonder there were 3 holy emperors in the human race at the end of the ancient era. Each one of them was as powerful as the most powerful experts in the world, and most likely cultivated the Tao of Godhood. It's too bad I didn't get to see it with my own eyes before I was sucked into this damnable god eye. Di Shitian looked at the god flame floating in the air in surprise. Although the ancient era was dominated by the demon folk, and the human race was nothing more than a vassal, the Tao of Godhood was a cultivation method developed by the human race for the first time. It relied on the power of faith from incense and faith to cultivate the Tao of Godhood and God power. Once the power of faith was gathered, one could transcend and become a god. The Tao of Godhood was born at the end of the ancient era. At that time, the world was in complete chaos and war was raging. Not many experts cared about such things. However, by relying on the power of will and cultivating the Tao of Godhood, 3 sage emperors had emerged. They were the heavenly emperor, the earthly emperor, and the human emperor. It was said that they were the strongest cultivators at the peak of the divine Tao, and their battle prowess was comparable to unparalleled powerhouses. It was only after ancient times that the divine Tao truly flourished for a period of time. Unfortunately, the human race loved infighting, and this was applicable at all times. Due to the difference in system between the immortal Tao and the divine Tao, it was inevitable that fierce battles would erupt. There was a small fight every 3 days and a big fight every 5 days. They fought until the heavens fell and the earth cracked, and the sun and moon lost their light. You destroyed my temple and statue, so I'll smash your sect. This period of history was the Middle Ages. The result of the battle was very obvious. The divine path cultivators were defeated. In the end, under the leadership of the 3 saint emperors, they retreated from the purple gold continent and left the land of origin. Once the divine Tao declined, it began to disappear from the world. Up until now, he had only heard of the divine path. It was obvious that there were some superficial methods to condense the power of faith, but he could not cultivate it to any great extent. The divine path naturally disappeared without a trace. Up until now, there was not a single person who cultivated the divine path. This was also the reason why no one paid too much attention to Di Shitian when he condensed the power of faith. Now, he was able to condense the divine fire. It could not be said that it was a rather unbelievable thing. Rise. Di Shitian carefully focused and gently pointed at the 7-colored exquisite stone. Immediately, the exquisite stone flew into the air and appeared on top of the divine fire. Streaks of golden flames immediately began to burn. However, the exquisite stone was incomparably hard. Even the divine fire could not easily smelt it. This stone was already comparable to an indestructible body. However, he did not intend to completely smelt it. He only controlled the divine fire and continuously poured the power of faith into the divine fire. Under the burning of the divine fire, it turned into wisps of pure divine power and turned into wisps of flames. They followed the divine stone's 7 orifices and continuously seeped into the exquisite stone. Wisps after wisps, they continued to flow endlessly. This was a method recorded in the mysterious jade slip to use divine power to smelt divine artifacts. He continued to use the divine power as a medium to smelt and seep into the 7 orifices exquisite stone. This incense and wish power was his. Even if it turned into divine power, it still had an extremely mysterious connection with him. He could still control it. When the exquisite stone was filled with divine power, he could use the connection between the divine power and himself to form a unique connection with the 7 orifices exquisite stone. He could refine it like a magic treasure. After that, no matter how hard the exquisite stone was, he could still transform it into any shape with his will. He also had to use divine power to condense a magical divine array inside when he smelted it. That divine array was called the Devouring the Heavens and Earth Divine Refining Array. The reason why the divine refining pot could devour any material and fuse it with the power of faith to produce a unique divine crystal was because of this divine array. Without the divine array, it naturally wouldn't have that kind of miraculous ability. However, this refining process wasn't something that could be done in a day or 2 or 3 months. It had to be persevered. He continued to smelt divine power into it. Swoosh! Under his control, the divine flame stabilized, and strands of divine energy seeped into his body through his 7 orifices. At this moment, he waved his hand again, and half of the stellar gold essence appeared in the air. The stellar gold essence was as fine as golden sand, and it turned into a streak of starry rainbow that landed above the divine flame. It approached the exquisite stone. This star essence gold was not as tough as the 7 orifices exquisite stone. Under the burning of the divine fire, it was clearly melting slowly. It melted into droplets of liquid that resembled stars. And the liquid turned into wisps of starry divine light. Like divine power, they surged into the exquisite stone through the 7 orifices. The fusion of the starry divine light caused the exquisite stone to have more starlight. It seemed to contain the power of the stars and was extremely gorgeous. Since he couldn't smelt it, he would use the exquisite stone as a furnace and smelt other materials into the exquisite stone. At that time, he would be able to refine it into a divine stone that fused with the stellar essence and the divine iron of the meteorite. Its magical effects would definitely be even more miraculous than before. Once the refinement was successful, it would also be a rare treasure. Time continued to pass in this silence. 1 year, 2 years, in the blink of an eye, 10 years passed. During these 10 years, Di Shitian didn't let down his guard for a moment. He kept his attention on the divine fire and the exquisite stone in front of him. In the 3rd year of the smelting, the stellar essence had all turned into the power of the stars and merged into it. In the next 6 years, the divine iron of the meteorite was cut in half and completely melted into it. For 10 years in a row, there was a huge amount of incense and will power being poured into the divine fire every day. The amount was so huge that even Di Shitian felt a little pained. Fortunately, there were hundreds of millions of people in China behind him. The incense continued. That was why he was able to hold on until now. 10 years was like a day. Every day, He had to condense the divine power into divine seals in the exquisite stone and distribute them everywhere, constantly perfecting the devouring the heavens and earth divine refining array. Devouring the heavens and earth, refining the divine array, gathering the 7 orifices, refining into a pot. Kai. On the grassland, Di Shitian was dressed in a black robe. His eyes were slightly closed, and a golden divine flame was burning fiercely in front of him. As for the exquisite stone, it was enveloped by a dense divine light. 7-colored light burst forth, and specks of starlight surrounded it. It was so gorgeous that it was like the most beautiful item in the world. Plop, plop. The moment the divine array was completed, the exquisite stone seemed to have suddenly gained life. It actually rose and fell like a living heart, beating violently. Every time it beat, the surrounding space actually trembled. Even Di Shitian could feel that the rhythm of his heartbeat was actually close to that of the exquisite stone. It became the same rhythm. It started to beat, and the amplitude was abnormally strong, as if it was going to jump out of his chest. Even his body seemed to have lost control. There was great terror between life and death. He was afraid that he could not control himself. He was afraid that he could not control himself. What a terrifying exquisite heart. Di Shitian hurriedly activated the Emperor's shocking world book and chanted the Emperor's tyrant heart mantra in his heart. He allowed himself to be in a state of mind where the heavens and earth were supreme, the Emperor of all living beings, and the heavens and earth revolved around him. Only then did he abandon that terrifying feeling. Then, without stopping, he immediately used his mind to enter the exquisite stone. Relying on his connection with it, he began to drive it to change. Immediately, he saw that the heart-like exquisite stone was beating as if it had a life of its own. It devoured the surrounding power of heaven and earth, as well as a huge amount of incense and willpower. At the same time, its shape was constantly changing. On one side of the heart, a pot mouth slowly appeared and extended outwards. On the other side, a pot handle appeared. It was like a tea set used to drink tea. Its entire body was surrounded by a 7-colored halo, and bits of starlight covered its body. There were 7 orifices around it, and they were still rising and falling. They were using the 7 orifices to devour the vast amount of power of heaven and earth and incense and willpower outside. The inside was hollow, but there was no pot lid. It was a complete body, and it was very mysterious and gorgeous. The divine power condensed, and a divine array formed by countless divine seals flashed out from the pot. Plop! A vast divine might burst out from the divine pot. With a jump, the space around the pot seemed to be unable to withstand it and collapsed inward. The destructive power that erupted when it collapsed was immediately swallowed by the 7 orifices on the divine pot before it could wreak havoc. Rumble. Suddenly, above his head, an incomparably terrifying heavenly might emitted a vast pressure that covered the sky and earth. Looking up, an incomparably huge 5-colored tribulation cloud condensed out of thin air. In the tribulation cloud, the pressure emitted by the heavenly tribulation was so terrifying that even Di Shitian felt suffocated. It was as if there were countless mountains pressing down on him. Lunatic Di, quick, run. This is a 5-colored tribulation cloud. It contains the terrifying power of the 5 elements. It must be the greater 5 elements tribulation. The divine pot you refined can actually draw out the weapon tribulation. It must be a treasure. Only precious treasures could trigger heavenly tribulations. You can't help me with this artifact tribulation. It has to be resisted by the artifact itself. Nether roared madly in his mind. It's a new month. Brothers with votes, please cast your guaranteed monthly votes for the 1,000 demons. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidyen.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 429. Heaven and earth had its own laws. When a person cultivated to a certain level, he would be above all things in the world. He could easily destroy a large number of lives with a wave of his hand. He could easily destroy mountains and seas. This kind of power had already violated the laws of heaven and earth. Heaven and earth would not allow you to cause harm to it. At this time, a heavenly tribulation would descend. Once the heavenly tribulation appeared, it would destroy the life that threatened all things in the world and make him return his power to all things in the world. If he couldn't pass it, he would naturally die. Generally speaking, as long as his cultivation was slightly weaker, his soul might be destroyed. If he didn't, he could only cultivate as an itinerant immortal. His physical body would definitely be destroyed. Or he could reincarnate and cultivate again. Each of them could be said to be miserable. If he could pass it, he would be able to transcend heaven and earth and be recognized by heaven and earth. Therefore, every time a human cultivator reached the heavenly tribulation level, he would face a heavenly tribulation. Demons went against heaven's will and faced many tribulations. With every step, there would be a heavenly tribulation to kill them. Compared to humans, it was 100 or 1,000 times more difficult to achieve. Humans had heavenly tribulations, and demons had demonic tribulations. Artifacts and Dharma treasures also had weapon tribulations. The principle was the same. Because the artifact that appeared had already touched upon a certain height, it attracted the jealousy of the heavens and earth, not allowing it to be born. Thus, the artifact tribulation would descend to destroy it, not allowing it to appear in the world. If it couldn't pass the tribulation, it would naturally be crushed into dust by the heavenly tribulation, completely destroyed. If it passed the tribulation, it would be acknowledged by the heavens and earth. Heaven and earth would recognize its existence. Now that the great 5 elements heavenly tribulation had condensed in the sky, it was obvious that the newly refined smelting god pot had touched the limits of heaven and earth. The heavenly tribulation would descend to destroy the smelting god pot. This weapon tribulation was a kind of weapon tribulation that no outsiders could help. It could only be supported and resisted by the smelting god pot itself. This great 5 elements heavenly tribulation is stronger than any I've encountered before. With my current state, unless I use the heavenly punishment divine eye, I will definitely be killed by the heavenly tribulation. Di Shitian didn't need Ming's reminder. He turned around and retreated a few hundred feet to escape the range of the heavenly tribulation. His expression changed slightly and his eyes fell on the smelting god pot that was still suspended in the air. There was no lack of nervousness in his heart. He wondered if the power of the god-refining pot could withstand the bombardment of the heavenly tribulation. He was the one who refined the pot, so he knew best what was going on. This pot was not an offensive magical treasure at all. It was just an artifact used to refine divine crystals. It was just a furnace. It had no offensive power and could not attack the enemy directly. It was an unconventional treasure. Crack. The 5-colored tribulation cloud in the sky churned violently. Before it could gather its power, a scarlet tribulation lightning filled with violent flames and a terrifying destructive aura shot towards the divine pot, shattering the surrounding space inch by inch. A vast and terrifying aura erupted from the tribulation lightning. Bang! The smelting god pot didn't even try to dodge the destructive tribulation lightning. It remained where it was, allowing the tribulation lightning to strike it. Immediately, countless crimson bolts of lightning erupted in all directions, instantly blasting the surrounding space into powder and obliterating it inch by inch. It was a terrifying scene of great destruction. The earth, fire, water, and wind rampaged in all directions, causing the grass within a radius of 1,000 feet to collapse on the spot. Countless cracks that looked like spider webs appeared on the surface of the ground. Plop. However, the divine pot did not shatter under the pure destructive tribulation lightning. It did not even sink into the ground. Instead, it continued to float in the air. Divine light surrounded the pot. Its 7 orifices breathed in and out, and it still pulsed as if it had a life of its own. Immediately, the pot's 7 orifices gave off a terrifying devouring power that could devour everything without any warning. The tribulation lightning that landed on the pot turned into strands of lightning under this strange devouring power. They flowed into the pot's 7 orifices and were all devoured by the divine pot like a whale sucking in water. In the blink of an eye, all the lightning in the surroundings disappeared. On the contrary, The seven-colored halo emitted by the pot became even brighter and denser, devouring the heavens and earth. This pot is so powerful. It can even devour tribulation lightning. Treasure. That tribulation lightning just now could even turn a mountain thousands of feet high into powder, but it was devoured just like that. Could this pot, formed by the combination of the immortal path and the divine path, be so magical? Nether was sitting in the nether prison, watching the situation outside. When he saw what was happening, he was so shocked that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. That pot had actually devoured the tribulation lightning. That devouring the heavens and earth divine formation is indeed magical. It can devour everything, even the heavenly tribulation. Sakra's eyes instantly became abnormally bright as they flickered with radiance. He instantly realized the preciousness of the divine pot. As expected, it had the ability to devour everything and refine divine crystals as mentioned in the mysterious jade slip. With such a powerful ability, even if it didn't have any offensive power, it could still make it extremely difficult to destroy. If it was used to refine divine crystals, there was no need to worry about it not being able to withstand and breaking. Countless lightning bolts shuttled back and forth in the tribulation clouds as if they had consciousness. When they saw the tribulation lightning being devoured, they immediately rolled violently. Then, with a boom, another golden tribulation lightning bolt, several times thicker than the one before, broke through the void and blasted the pot. The tribulation lightning contained boundless sharpness that tore through space. Thump. However, the seven orifices divine pot continued to pulsate in a relaxed manner. An even more terrifying devouring force burst forth from the pot and swallowed the tribulation lightning back into the pot. The tribulation lightning seemed to have been absorbed by the pot. The divine light on the pot's surface became even brighter and more resplendent. One could clearly see that its divine might had become even more powerful. Using the tribulation lightning to refine the body and strengthen the body. This divine pot was truly magical. Bang! 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 Countless tribulation lightning bolts crazily fell like raindrops, bombarding the pot one after another, crazily trying to destroy it. However, no matter how many lightning bolts came, the divine pot didn't reject them. It swallowed all of them into the pot and used them to refine the pot. The divine pot also became more and more condensed and extraordinary. At the beginning, the divine light on the divine pot was dazzling, but later on, the divine light on the divine pot became more and more restrained, and it became more and more simple. The tribulation lightning didn't cause any damage to it at all. In the end, the divine pot seemed to feel that the tribulation lightning wasn't powerful enough. It directly rushed into the tribulation clouds and swallowed the entire tribulation cloud into the pot. The heavenly tribulation disappeared on the spot. Whoosh! With a whoosh, the divine pot shrank to the size of an ordinary teapot. It also swallowed the divine fire below it, becoming the divine fire of the pot. It was connected as one, and it couldn't be extinguished. Then, it instantly flew in front of Di Shitian and landed in his hand. What a treasure! Di Shitian's eyes flashed with a strange light as he carefully sized up the divine pot in his hand. Looking at its shape, it was like a heart, but there was an additional mouth, a handle, and 7 orifices on its body. The divine light was restrained, and the body of the pot was covered with fine and mysterious divine patterns. These divine patterns seemed to contain endless truths of heaven and earth. It could be said that the pot in front of him was quite different from the God-refining pot recorded in the mysterious Jade Scroll. For example, the pot recorded in the Jade Scroll wasn't the pot in front of him that didn't have a mouth and was completely like a hole, using the 7 orifices to devour everything. Although the divine formation in the pot was still the same, it was more powerful. It used the 7 orifices exquisite stone, which was almost impossible to destroy. Compared to the ordinary God-refining pot, it was on a higher level. The divine effect was stronger. What a treasure! Di Shitian praised continuously. The pot could be big or small, but it was extremely heavy. He said, "The pot is refined from the 7 orifices exquisite stone. Since that's the case, I'll give you a name. It's called the 7 orifices exquisite pot. From now on, Help me refine divine crystals and lay the foundation for the divine city in the future. Plop, plop. The 7 orifices exquisite pot was indeed very spiritual. When it heard the name Di Shetien gave it, it magically jumped as if it was happy. It even exuded an aura of intimacy towards him. Crazy Di, quick, use it to refine divine crystals. I've never heard of divine crystals in the ancient times. I want to see what kind of treasure the combination of the immortal Tao and divine Tao refining methods can refine. Dark's eyes lit up as he looked at the divine pot and urged. Once the divine pot was completed, it meant that the divine crystals that he had been looking forward to could be refined. Who wouldn't want to see such a treasure that wasn't in the various worlds or the 5 elements as soon as possible? No hurry. I still need to refine an artifact to hold it. Although Di Shetien also wanted to see the divine crystals as soon as possible, he didn't panic. Now that he had refined the pot, the artifact to hold the divine crystals couldn't be ordinary. According to records, the divine crystals refined in the pot weren't complete at first, but liquid. They had to cool down and solidify on their own before they finally took shape. The artifact to hold the divine crystals was also very particular. It had to be 10,000-year-old warm jade and 10,000-year-old ice jade. The two had to be fused together to nurture yin and yang. These 2 things had already been obtained in the Pavilion of Delicacy. It wasn't difficult to refine them. Compared to refining the pot, it was many times easier. It only took a month to refine a crystal treasure box. The box was rectangular, 9 feet long and 5 feet wide. It was a combination of the 9 and 5 supremes. Alright, I'll test the power of the divine pot today. After preparing everything, Di Shetien was also looking forward to it. He placed the pot in front of him, and with a thought, it became as tall as a person. The supreme treasure box was right in front of the pot. With a wave of his hand, he took out a storage bag. With a crash, a pile of ordinary refining materials, such as copper essence and iron essence, piled up into a small mountain. They were all materials that ordinary cultivators carried with them to refine Dharma artifacts. Although he didn't like them, he had always kept them with him. He was waiting to use them to refine the divine crystals today. Dong. With a thought, the 7 orifices exquisite pot jumped up and down. A ball of 7-colored divine light burst out from the pot, covering all the materials that were piled up high. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 430. After covering all the materials, the colorful mist returned to the pot through its 7 orifices. In the blink of an eye, all the colorful mist disappeared and the 7 orifices exquisite pot returned to its simple and ordinary state, as if nothing had happened. But the miraculous thing was that the mountain of refining materials that had been covered by the dense qi had also strangely disappeared at the same time. Apparently, they had entered the pot together with the colorful mist. At this moment, Sakura could clearly feel that there was a golden divine fire in the pot, and above the divine fire, there was actually a small mountain of miscellaneous items gathered from various refining materials. These ordinary materials melted at a speed visible to the naked eye under the refinement of the divine fire. The divine fire in the pot was already a part of the 7 orifices exquisite pot and had a mysterious connection with Di Shetien. This was because he discovered that there was a mysterious connection between the power of faith in his body and the divine fire. As the divine fire burned, wisps of power of faith poured into the divine fire from the void and turned into threads of divine power. They spread out in all directions and gradually filled the entire pot. There was no need for Di Shetien to control it. Once the materials entered, the divine pot would operate on its own and the devour the heavens and earth deity refining formation would be activated. Countless divine seals were released and merged into the pot. The materials and divine power inside fused together in a mysterious way. The perfect fusion was no longer divine power, nor was it a pure refinement material. The combination of the two materials formed a unique liquid that did not belong to refinement material or divine power. It was the fusion of the divine path and immortal path. They absorbed each other's strengths and formed an object that transcended the divine path and immortal path. Indra didn't dare to relax his mind for even a moment as he carefully observed every change in the pot. He discovered that the divine power formed by the power of faith condensed into mysterious divine seals under the power of the divine formation and fused together with the materials. It was these divine seals that changed the nature of the materials. They became a new object. TSK, what a miraculous method. I didn't expect the human race to be so creative. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that the divine path and immortal path could be so perfectly fused into a new object. It's too miraculous. It actually has the characteristics of the divine path and immortal path at the same time. To be able to create an object that transcends the 5 elements, the owner of that mysterious jade slip is definitely a rare genius. Ming gave a rare heartfelt compliment. When he heard the liquid flowing in the pot, he revealed a look of curiosity. The power of the divine flame in the pot was boundless. Ordinary refining materials were refined into a liquid without much effort. Then, they were melted together with the divine power, forming a crystal-like liquid. It flowed in the pot. Traces of impurities were constantly refined, making the liquid more and more crystal clear. Stars twinkled in the sky like a river of stars. Not only was it flawless, it was also extraordinarily gorgeous. 15 minutes later, Sakra controlled the 7 orifices exquisite pot and appeared on top of the supreme treasure box. He tilted the pot and immediately, the crystal liquid with specks of starlight could be seen falling into the box. In the blink of an eye, the jade box was filled to the brim with liquid. He stopped pouring and closed the lid of the jade box. A yin-yang taiji diagram appeared on the top of the box. It spun 9 times and sucked the surrounding power of heaven and earth into the diagram. As the yin-yang fish swam, it turned into yin-yang energy and fell into the box. After 9 revolutions, the treasure box opened on its own, and a dense qi spread out. When Xiao Chen looked at the box, he saw that it was still a clump of water-like liquid. Now, when he looked at it again, the original liquid had miraculously condensed into a crystal. It had completely solidified. This crystal was like a crystal, with specks of starlight flowing in it. On the surface, there was a layer of mysterious patterns distributed on every inch of the crystal. These patterns weren't deliberately imprinted, but were naturally formed like the growth rings of a tree. These patterns were definitely not ordinary. At first glance, they seemed very ordinary. However, if one took a closer look, they would feel that these lines seemed to contain extremely mysterious mysteries. It was as if they had a life of their own as they swam and changed from time to time. It was a mystical sight. The whole piece of divine crystal exuded a kind of godlike majesty. Although it was quietly placed in the box, it could still attract people's attention instantly. There was no power of the 5 elements on it, nor was there any spiritual energy fluctuation of refining materials. It was beyond the 5 elements. It was independent of the 5 elements. Divine crystal, this is the divine crystal. At this moment, Sakra's mind couldn't help but tremble as he revealed an excited expression. His eyes stared intently at the crystal-like crystal in the box. Looking forward to the stars and the moon. Looking forward to it for how long? It could be said that from the moment he knew about the existence of the divine crystal, he had been looking forward to the day that he could refine this magical treasure. At this moment, he had finally refined it and seen it with his own eyes. He reached out his right hand and sucked at the divine crystal. Suddenly, the crystal-like divine crystal flew out of the box and was held in his hand like an enlarged brick. With a thought, a pure royal true power surged out from his body and poured into the divine crystal along his arm. Boom! The royal true force flowed into the divine crystal unhindered, and in an instant, Sakra felt that when a portion of his royal true force entered the divine crystal, it was suddenly magnified by 10 times. At the same time, the divine crystal burst out with a layer of dense crystal divine light. The veins on the surface seemed to be completely alive, emitting a powerful divine aura like that of a god. In an instant, it was enlarged by 100 times. The vast power caused the air around it to strangely solidify. The brick smashed down 100 feet in front of him. Rumble. Under the brick formed by the divine crystal, the ground was smashed into a terrifying deep pit. The deep pit was in the shape of a brick, bombarding a terrifying abyss that was thousands of feet deep. Then, the divine crystal returned to its original state and returned to his hand. He still looked as perfect and flawless as ever. It was like an ornament, not a sharp offensive weapon. Amazing. When I pour my power in, it can increase by 10 times in an instant. It can also be used as a magic weapon. There is no need to refine it. It is comparable to a mid-grade magic weapon. Moreover, this divine crystal is so hard that it is almost impossible to damage it. If it is used to refine magic weapons or divine weapons, it is the best material. The refined weapons are incomparably sharp and can allow any power to enter the body. There is no need to be afraid of not being able to withstand it. Moreover, it can also store incense and power of will and use it to become stronger. Amazing, too incredible. Using it to build the demon city was a good idea. Dai Shitian was overjoyed. Divine crystals were also divided into 3 grades, high, middle, and low. Above them, there was the most precious divine crystal. As for the piece before him, it was only made from the lowest grade materials. It was only a low-grade divine crystal. However, there was a method to synthesize it. One could put 3 blocks of divine crystal into the exquisite gourd and smelt it into a mid-grade divine crystal. Then, with 3 blocks of mid-grade divine crystal, one could smelt a high-grade divine crystal. As for a supreme-grade divine crystal, it would require 100 blocks of high-grade divine crystal to be smelted. The grades of the divine crystal were differentiated by the number of divine seals contained in the divine crystal. For example, there were 1,000 divine seals in a low-grade divine crystal, 10,000 divine seals in a mid-grade divine crystal, 100,000 divine seals in a high-grade divine crystal, and 1,000,000 divine seals in a top-grade divine crystal. The more divine seals there were, the stronger the power and the higher the quality. It was extremely precious. Divine crystals were calculated in square blocks. Just like the one in his hand, it was a square block. This was a treasure. It could absorb the power of will to become stronger. In the future, it could be used to strengthen the demon city. To the secular world, this city was called the Divine City, and he lived in the Divine City. At that time, the object of faith would also be the Divine City. Hundreds of millions of divine seals would be applied to the city. Day after day, the entire ancient city would become stronger. The divine crystal was indeed mysterious and had endless uses. TSK, lunatic DI, you have to keep that jade slip well. That is not an ordinary treasure, the things inside are too shocking. Only when you have it in your own hands can you truly be at ease. Otherwise, you would rather destroy it than let others have it. Murderous light flashed in Ming's eyes as he realized the true value of the mysterious jade slip. Just like the divine crystal, it was a rare treasure in the world. Whoever had it would have the ability to change everything. Of course, no one can control such a powerful weapon except for yourself. Dai Shitian said coldly. He was not a child, how could he not understand the true value of the jade slip? It could be said to be a rare top treasure. It was ranked in the top 10 treasures. There was still more than half of the divine liquid in the exquisite pot that had not been poured out. He poured the divine liquid into the box again with ease, condensing it into cubes of divine crystals. When all the divine liquid in the pot was poured out, there were only 10 cubes of divine crystals in total. The materials that had just been swallowed into the pot were almost like a small mountain. That was all the low-level refining materials he had collected all the time, but only 10 cubes of divine crystals were condensed. It could be seen how rare divine crystals were. It seems that when I return to the southern barbarian land, I have to ask Kai Hua and the others to find some mineral veins, dig out various spiritual materials, and use the raw ores to refine divine crystals. I remember that Chen Shi and the others have never dug a spiritual mine, so there should be a lot of mineral veins. Dai Shitian made up his mind in a flash. Although he could throw a large number of useless Dharma artifacts into the pot to refine divine crystals, compared to the needs of building a city, it was simply a drop in the bucket. He still needed other sources, such as the power of the demons in the 10,000 Demon Valley. I don't know which flaw the exquisite pagoda sealed the millions of demons in the heavenly demon secret realm. With my current strength, I can completely subdue those demons and be called the king of demons. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidyen.com. There are more chapters. I support the author, and I support the original readers. Chapter 431. Back then, the Linglong Treasure Pagoda had absorbed the entire Sky Fae mystic realm into the pagoda. That vast treasure vault, the majestic Huang Quan Holy River, the mysterious Spider Lily Island, and even the 2 great Fae masters that were suppressed. 1,000,000 Fae creatures. Everything. The treasures that he saw back then were all sealed in the pagoda by Ziyu's backup plan. Until now, apart from the Linglong Treasure Pagoda and the tens of thousands of Fae ancient books in the first layer, he hadn't been able to get a single one of the benefits he obtained in the secret realm. Speaking of which, even Di Shitian himself felt a little ashamed. It wasn't because Ziyu had set up a backup plan to prevent him from really obtaining the shocking treasures, but because of his own strength and cultivation. Ziyu's arrangement was obviously to prevent Jiao Wuyuan from becoming complacent and provoking an unstoppable calamity after obtaining such a precious treasure with his weak cultivation base. As a result, he died prematurely. In essence, it was for his own good. The treasures were all sealed in the pagoda. If he wanted to take them, his cultivation base would need to reach a certain level. At this moment, his Fae Core second transformation could enter the second layer of the pagoda. He guessed that when his cultivation base reached the Fae Core third transformation, he should be able to open the door to the third layer of the pagoda and enter the third layer. He had a hunch that as long as he opened the third layer, he should be able to see the 1,000,000 Fae creatures he saw back then. Breakthrough, I must break through. Once the 1,000,000 Fae are under my control, my power will grow rapidly. At that time, I will be able to start preparing to build a Fae city. Above all Fae, I will be the king of Fae. When Di Shitian thought of the endless treasures contained in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, endless energy surged in his body, filled with passion and a high fighting spirit. His eyes shone brightly. Once he subdued the 1,000,000 Fae creatures, he would be the king of Fae. With his cultivation base, he had this qualification. Looking at the 10 square meters of divine crystals, he took out his storage pouch and wanted to put them in. However, the strange thing was that the storage pouch couldn't hold the divine crystals at all. He replaced it with a storage ring, but it was the same in the wild. He couldn't put it in the storage space at all. It was really miraculous. In this regard, Di Shitian pondered for a moment and did not pay too much attention to it. After finding a clean spot, Zhongxian sat down without wasting any time. In order to forge the 7 orifices gourd, he had already spent a full 10 years. Before entering the heaven-reaching pagoda, he had already made up his mind to enter seclusion in the heaven-reaching pagoda for a year. In other words, he would spend 50 years in the second level of the heaven-reaching pagoda. Now that 10 years had passed, there were only 40 years left. His internal cultivation was already at the peak of a breakthrough, and the opportunity for a breakthrough was right in front of him. However, he wasn't in a hurry to break through immediately. Instead, he nurtured his mind until it was calm, like the moon in the well, unperturbed by the waves. Everything was calm. His royal true force continued to circulate through the various demonic veins in his body. While nourishing the demonic veins, it also continued to strengthen his flesh and blood. This preparation lasted for an entire year. It's time. Unknowingly, the pair of slightly closed eyes slowly opened. He looked into the void with a deep gaze. His breakthrough was different from the other demon clans. The other demon clans only needed to think of a way to withstand the demonic tribulation. However, he was different. Not only did he have to pass the demonic tribulation, but he also had to enter the Black Lotus to pass the realm of desire. The desire state was even more terrifying than the demonic tribulation. He could step into a state of eternal damnation at any time. This was a tribulation. Once he broke through, he would have to face two kinds of tribulations at the same time. This was not 1 + 1 = 2. The danger was 10 times or even 100 times greater than others. The most terrifying thing was to enter the desire state and not be able to come out. The first 2 times he entered the realm of desire, he still remembered it clearly in his mind. Each time, it was extremely dangerous. During the second time, he almost failed. He had to transform into someone else and experience someone else's life. If he wasn't careful, he would lose his nature. Sinking into it, he would be doomed. Almost every time, it was more dangerous than the previous. I stand here, I am the emperor. Heaven and earth are under my control. The sun and moon revolve around me. I don't believe that a little desire state can do anything to me. Di Shitian was full of confidence. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes again. His whole mind poured into the demon palace without reservation. He condensed his body and appeared in the demon refining cauldron. He looked at the third-grade black lotus floating on the liquid below. The black lotus was constantly rotating at a constant speed. On the surface, there were these 11 mysterious seals. The black lotus contained a huge amount of imperial true force and the power of desire. Among the third grade, only the first grade still had the power of desire. The power of desire contained a strong joy and joy. It affected one's mind, and some festive past events involuntarily appeared. He couldn't help but want to laugh out loud. Usually, laughing once or twice would help to recuperate the body and mind. It was good for the body. However, if one was infected with this kind of joy and desire, then one would laugh non-stop. This would cause great harm to one's vitality. Perhaps it would not be a rare thing to laugh to death. In the Black Lotus, the power of joy had been filled to the brim and had almost reached the limit. The power of desire that was emitted could erupt a terrifying power from afar. However, Sakra had already passed the test of 2 states of desire. In terms of temperament, he already had a considerable resistance to desire and his mind was even more tenacious. When I come out again, I will be a third transformation monster pill, Di Shitian said firmly. His words were full of strong confidence. Xiao Chen no longer hesitated. He rubbed his body and his mind rushed into the state of desire without any hesitation. Rumble. The moment it entered, the originally calm Black Lotus suddenly burst forth with an intense black light. With a boom, it began to spin at an unprecedented speed. Below the Black Lotus, streams of pure demonic chi were continuously sucked into the Black Lotus like a whale sucking in water. Meanwhile, in the demon manor outside the demon refining cauldron, the power of desire flooded into the cauldron like a tide. Outside his body, Sakra's entire body suddenly emitted endless majesty. He broke away from his human body and transformed into a demon body that was as tall as 100 feet, standing between heaven and earth. A vast and mighty pressure burst forth from his huge tiger body in all directions. The pressure caused the space within a radius of thousands of feet to solidify. The purple royal pattern on its forehead vividly displayed the innate royal might of this fiendish demon body. It kept flashing. Every time it flashed, the majesty became stronger. At the same time, the power of heaven and earth within a radius of thousands of feet rolled in and gathered towards him, forming a terrifying spiritual chi vortex in the sky above. A huge amount of power of heaven and earth constantly rushed into the monster body, cleansing it, strengthening it, and turning it into power. Gushing into the Black Lotus. The colorful spiritual chi in the surroundings wrapped around him, not leaving a single trace behind. Inside his body, there was a shocking change. In the third-grade Black Lotus, since Di Shitian's mind entered the desire state, the breakthrough had already begun. Waves of pale golden royal true power were constantly spewing out, rushing out of the monster mansion and into the body through the monster vein connected to the heart. And it quickly followed the monster vein. At this moment, from the first to the second monster vein, the small branches seemed to have a life of their own. Under the stimulation of the royal true power, they quickly extended and took root in every inch of flesh. Densely packed, they formed a mysterious meridian network. Every time a large amount of royal true power flowed through an inch of the demon vein, there would be a pure true power that would directly merge into the demon vein, strengthening the demon vein's toughness, making it even more resilient. The demon vein was nourished, and similarly, it was brimming with vitality. The royal true power did not stop. After cleansing the monster vein that had been refined before, it rushed into the third monster vein. In a moment, the third monster vein was like a dry sponge, greedily absorbing waves of pure true power to nourish it. Then, one could see that at the edge of the demon vein, one could see a small branch vein slowly appear. They also spread out in all directions, piercing into the flesh. In the blink of an eye, the royal true power had completely penetrated the third monster vein. It was just that the third demonic vein's branch vein was still small and weak, as if it was going to break at any moment. This was not something that could be changed in a short period of time. It needed to be nourished day after day with true power to allow these new branch veins to slowly become strong and durable. However, the third monster vein was opened. In a short period of time, the entire monster body was magically strengthened by several times. New power of desire continuously integrated into the flesh, strengthening the monster body. As the power of heaven and earth integrated into the flesh, the monster body inevitably began to expand violently. Rumble. In the sky, a three-colored tribulation cloud condensed out of thin air, appearing above Di Shitian's head. It was huge to the point where it was thousands of feet. In the tribulation cloud, countless lightning bolts flashed crazily like hundreds of millions of lightning snakes. Thick lightning bolts shuttled back and forth in the clouds. It was the arrival of the 3-9 monster tribulations. In the three-colored tribulation cloud, there were 3 types of 5 elements power intertwined. In the collision, there was a burst of terrifying aura. As if it was destroying the world, the space around the tribulation cloud was distorted. A vast pressure poured down, like an avalanche, and pressed down on Di Shitian. The changes in the outside world were all controlled by the body's instincts. However, the real key was inside the body. The mind was undergoing the test of desire. Outside the body, it was undergoing the tempering of the monster tribulations. Inside and outside, it was bitter. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations, Yi Qing, you can actually get the most beautiful girl in Qingping town, Yang Hongye, Miss Hongye, really enviable. Yes. Miss Yang Hongye is the only good girl in our town. She is proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and her appearance is even more beautiful. She is envied by others. In a simple town, there was a festive atmosphere everywhere. There were lanterns and decorations, and a large number of people in the town stood on both sides of the street. At the end of the street was a large house. There were big lions standing on both sides of the door. A young man wearing a groom's outfit with a big red flower on his chest and a face full of joy was greeting the people around him with a smile. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 432. Thank you. Thank you all for coming to drink my, Yi Qing's, wedding wine. Please come in and have a seat. The young man named Yi Qing was brimming with joy that could not be concealed. He greeted the surrounding villagers with a smile on his face, but his eyes were nervously staring at the end of the street, as if he was waiting for something to come. Upon closer inspection, if there was a mirror here, one would discover that the appearance of this young man called Yi Qing was exactly the same as Sakura. However, he did not have the domineering aura of a king. Instead, there was only a scholarly aura of righteousness, and there was a scholarly aura that was cultivated from reading a lot of books. However, it was not the weak scholarly aura of an ordinary scholar. It was the upright Confucian aura of an indomitable spirit. Under the contrast of this aura, he appeared even more outstanding and had a unique temperament. It was unforgettable. Deep impression. It looked like he was going to get married. There were 4 great joys in life, due after a long drought, meeting an old friend in a foreign land. On the wedding night, when the imperial examination. At this moment, Yi Qing was experiencing the joy of marriage in life, and joy was overflowing in his heart. No matter where he went, he was smiling, as if there was no worry in his heart. Even the people around him could be affected. Wu La, looking forward to it, a burst of festive music on the street came from afar. Looking up, on the opposite side, there was a wedding procession coming here, carrying an 8-person big bridal sedan, steadily walking toward Yi Qing. Dear villagers, please forgive Yi Qing for a moment. The sedan chair has arrived, and the auspicious time has arrived. I am going to pick up the bride. Please go inside and have a sip of tea. Yi Qing smiled and said to the villagers around him. The villagers around him had a look of understanding, showing a blessing smile, and let him lead the wedding procession away. The Yi family, that's 9 generations of only one son. Every generation has been kind and charitable, paving the way and building bridges, and helping the poor. Young Master Yi Qing is even more knowledgeable, and is known far and wide for being a good person. The heavens will definitely protect their family. The imperial examinations will begin next year. If young Master Yi participates, he will definitely be the top scorer. Unfortunately, I heard that the descendants of the Yi family are not allowed to participate in the government. Isn't that so? I hope the heavens can bless young Master Yi Qing to have a child soon. In the discussions, almost all of them were praising the Yi clan's reputation in the town. It was as if they were a family of great kindness. Every generation of the Yi clan's ancestral teachings were to do good deeds. Although the Yi clan's business was huge, with all kinds of shops opening up to the north and south of the river, and the wealth they earned every day could be said to be a bucket full of gold. The family's wealth could be compared to that of a country. However, they were not stingy like the rich. Most of them were taken from the people and used by the people. They constantly took out money to help the poor and the victims of disasters. It was passed down from generation to generation. Almost half of the people in the country had received the kindness of the Yi clan. The 9 generations of good deeds had almost gathered the hearts of countless people. Let's not talk about this. However, it didn't take long for Yi Qing to return with the wedding procession. In the bridal sedan chair, there was a peerless beauty wearing a phoenix cape and a red crown. It was lively. When the wedding night was over, the red veil was lifted. What was covered under it was really a beautiful woman. This woman, except for her different temperament, looked exactly the same as Chen Shi. Almost the same. Yi Qing looked exactly the same as Di Shitian, and Yang Hongye looked exactly the same as Chen Shi. Where was this? It was the state of desire that Di Shitian had entered. The 7 emotions and 6 desires were things that even peerless experts were not willing to touch. Even peerless experts were not those who had forgotten their emotions. On the contrary, those who were able to reach the peak were mostly those who had returned to their roots and found their own hearts. They would unleash their own temperament to the extreme. If one's nature was dark, then one would be a demon. If one's nature was sincere, then one was a god. No matter if one was a god or a demon, one was oneself. If one had feelings in one's heart, there would be desires. If one had desires, it was impossible to escape the influence of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Normally, a little bit of the power of desires would naturally not affect them. However, in order to cultivate the power of desires, one must first throw oneself into it. If one couldn't control and not be affected by it, even they would be blinded by their desires and sink into it, never to rise again. Although Sakura was extremely daring and had found a shortcut to form all 13 demonic veins in his body, to truly control them and use them for his own use, it was still difficult to avoid. However, he had to walk a groove in the 13 realms of Tao desire. Each realm of Tao desire was more dangerous than the previous. The first 2 times, he was lucky enough to successfully pass it and control the 2 types of desires in his body. He was no longer affected by them. His primordial spirit and true power had the unique power of the 2 types of desires. He also realized that every time he grasped a type of power of desire, it meant that he could absorb the same type of power of desire at any time and place. Under such a situation, his cultivation speed instantly increased by several times. After going through the first state of desire, the monster body naturally gained a unique characteristic. It naturally drew in the power of desire, increasing its cultivation speed by 3 times on the spot. This 3 times cultivation speed was because it could absorb more power of desire than ordinary living beings. After going through the second state of desire, its cultivation speed increased once again, reaching 6 times the cultivation speed of ordinary living beings. It almost doubled. If he passed this test and gained the recognition of the power of joy in the desire, he could immediately increase his cultivation speed by 9 times. At every moment, there was a huge amount of power surging into his body and into his demon residence. Unfortunately, the state of desire was stronger each time. The first 2 times were still okay. In the beginning, after all, there was a period of time when he was clear. He could clearly recognize who he was. At every critical moment, he could always use the Imperial Tyrant Heart Mantra to protect his mind. He was able to protect himself and finally transcend. But this time was completely different from before. As soon as he entered, before he could wake up, he appeared in an inexplicable place. He directly turned into a baby in swaddling clothes. There was no memory of Di Shitian in his mind. There was only a blank innocence like that of a baby. His memories had been strangely sealed. He had always been living here, growing up under the care of his parents. Here, there were parents who loved him dearly, and there were kind villagers. Every day of his life was filled with joy, without a trace of worry or worry. Whatever he wanted, he could have it. Some happy things would happen by his side. He would not be willing to exchange for it even if he used an immortal. Now, he was married, and he had completely integrated into this world. He felt that he was really a part of this place. With his parents in the same room and his wife by his side, it could be said that he was infinitely happy. If this was a dream, he would rather never wake up in this dream. Sinking. This kind of thought could be said to be terrifying. If there was really a day when he did not wake up from this strange state of desire, he would be immersed in countless surprises and slowly spend his life. When he was old, he still could not recall his memories. His own will was not to leave this world, and he was willing to stay in this wonderful happiness. Once he grew old, once his lifespan was exhausted, and he died in the state of desire, then Di Shitian would really disappear completely, and his body and soul would be destroyed. This was almost equivalent to boiling a frog in warm water. In the state of desire, Di Shitian still did not know anything. He turned into Yi Qing, thinking about the beautiful soul of the wedding night. He did not know that he was walking step by step into the abyss. Traces of obsession, step by step, were pulling him into the endless abyss of death. And outside of his body, above his head, the 3-9 demonic tribulation also showed its might. Bolts of tribulation lightning as thick as a water bucket crazily fell down like raindrops, all bombarding that huge tiger body of Sakra. The destructive power contained in the tribulation lightning burned the fur on his demon body into a patch of black. Countless terrifying lightning bolts entered his body through his pores, shuttling through every inch of flesh and blood in his body. It was constantly destroying. It was as if it really wanted to completely destroy him. Fortunately, the third-grade Black Lotus in the Demon Palace was frantically operating, emitting an amazing devouring power, constantly absorbing the tribulation lightning that entered his body into the Black Lotus, tempering the Black Lotus and the Imperial True Force inside. However, without Di Shitian's personal control, relying on his own instinct, he still could not completely devour all the power of the tribulation lightning. There was still a large amount of tribulation lightning crazily destroying the monster body. For a short time, he might be able to rely on the strength of the monster body to hold on for a while, but if the time was too long, he was afraid that he would also be in danger of dying. Now, his mind was at a loss in the state of desire. Inside and outside, it was as if a disaster was in front of him. Clang. In the 10,000 demon valley of the southern wilderness. Almost all the demon clans of the southern wilderness had gathered in the 10,000 demon valley, and there were no less than 100,000 of them. Compared to before, it was several times livelier. However, each of them seemed to be full of vitality and enthusiasm. Many buildings had been built in the valley, but the most conspicuous one was the pagoda standing in the valley. Almost every little demon would take a look at the pagoda when they passed by. Their eyes burst with endless fighting spirit, emerging with endless energy and hope. They had an endless yearning for the pagoda. A large number of demon clans in the valley, in terms of temperament, had vaguely changed. They were no longer undisciplined, but had a strong sense of cohesion. There were also some little demons patrolling in the valley in groups. In the section of the waterfall in the valley, a quiet courtyard was built. When they were free, they could enjoy the scene of the waterfall hanging in the front. At this moment, in the backyard, Chen Shi, dressed in plain clothes, was sitting in a pavilion, facing the waterfall sideways and looking at the pool. In front of him was a 7-stringed guqin. With a broken sound, a string made of 1,000-year-old silk on the guqin strangely broke. It broke into 2 sections, and his index finger tingled. The guqin string cut his finger, and a drop of blood came out. The guqin string broke. This is an ominous sign. My heart hurts so much. Chen Shi's face suddenly changed. He only felt a stabbing pain in his heart. It was so painful that even breathing was a little difficult. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author, and I support the original readers. Chapter 433. She clutched her chest with her jade-like hands, feeling an unbearable pain in her heart. An unprecedented pain spread to every corner of her body. Even with Chen Shi's self-control, she could not help but turn pale. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and a dense layer of fragrant sweat appeared on her face. It was clear how terrible the pain was. Fortunately, this kind of heart-piercing pain only lasted for a short moment, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. She vaguely felt that her loved ones were going through an unimaginable calamity, and could die at any time. The broken strings and the inexplicable stabbing pain in her heart were obviously an ominous sign. Chen Shi had received the inheritance of the goddess of 100 flowers, so she understood a lot of things. Naturally, she knew that this was definitely not an illusion, but a kind of mysterious feeling. This kind of feeling was extremely spiritual, and would only happen to things related to her and her loved ones. Every time it appeared, there was bound to be a calamity. If it was not her, it would be someone else. And at this moment, the only person who was related to her and was outside was only Di Shitian. It's Shitian. What kind of danger has he encountered to make me feel such a bad omen? Chen Shi's face suddenly became quite unsightly. With a wave of her hand, 2 white jade lamps were placed on the table in front of her. On the lamps, there were 2 lamps that were constantly emitting light. The flame in one of them was very strong, but there was nothing unusual about it. On the other hand, the flame in the other lamp was flickering, as if there was a gust of wind blowing towards it. Even the lamp became abnormally dim, as if it could be extinguished at any time. It was very fragile. Shitian's natal spirit lamp has become so weak. Something really has happened. Chen Shi's usually indifferent face showed a kind of deep worry. She took a deep breath and stared at the flame in the lamp without blinking. It should be known that these 2 lamps were not ordinary lamps, but a kind of natal spirit lamp. Chen Shi inadvertently saw a kind of magic treasure in the demon clan's ancient scrolls in the exquisite pagoda. The lamp itself did not possess any offensive power. The flames within the lamp were also not ordinary flames. They were primordial spirit flames. When a strand of primordial spirit was placed into the lamp, it would turn into a lamp flame. At that time, this light represented the flame of his life. If it was outside, once he died, the light would be extinguished. The stronger one was, the stronger the light would be. What was even more amazing was that at a critical moment, he could rely on this natal Yuanshan lamp to sense the location of the owner of the lamp, and he could also check the other party's situation under the condition of consuming Yuan Qi. Although it was only for an instant, he was able to find out where the other party was in danger. Before Di Shitian left, he left this natal spirit lamp with Chen Shi. Now that he saw the scene of the primordial spirit fire, how could he not guess that Di Shitian must be in unimaginable danger at this time? You promised me that when you built the demon city in the future, you would officially marry me. You did not fulfill your promise. I will not allow anything to happen to you. She firmly spat out a sentence. His expression became unusually dignified. His hands quickly formed a series of mysterious seals, and between his 10 fingers, mysterious demon characters flashed. They fell into the natal Yuan-Shen lamp. Wang. The natal Yuan-Shen lamp shook violently, and the light in the lamp suddenly emitted thousands of golden rays of light, intertwining with each other and condensing into a golden mirror in mid-air. A layer of light flashed through the mirror, and suddenly, an image flashed from the mirror. This is Tribulation Transcendence. 3-colored tribulation cloud, he is going through the 3-9 demonic tribulation. She thought that he might have encountered some strong enemy that he could not resist, and also thought that he might be trapped in some dangerous place, but she never thought that Di Shitian was actually going through the 3-9 demonic tribulation. Moreover, from the looks of it, he did not even resist under the demonic tribulation. He just lay on the ground, letting the tribulation thunder madly fall on his body, bombarding his demon body until his skin and flesh were split open. This was obviously not a normal tribulation transcendence scene, as if he was passively enduring the tribulation thunder. Bang! To maintain this mirror, the 100-flower essence in Shi's body drained like a tide. In the blink of an eye, his face turned pale, and the power in his body was almost exhausted. The mirror could no longer be maintained, and it collapsed on the spot. The image inside naturally disappeared. I remember Shitian told me that because he absorbed the power of desire, there are a total of 13 states of desire. Every time he breaks through, he needs to enter the state of desire to undergo the test of desire. That test is more dangerous than any tribulation, and he has to put his mind and soul into it without reservation. To undergo the demonic tribulation and the state of desire at the same time. If he is not careful, he will be consigned to eternal damnation. This situation, could it be that something happened to him in the state of desire? She was not an ordinary demon, and his intelligence was only above that of humans. Almost in the blink of an eye, he roughly figured out what had happened from some of the information he had received in the past. Desire is the most powerful thing to confuse a person's mind and soul. Back then, Shitian was bewitched by desire, and that's why he. In his mind, he recalled the scene when he was kidnapped by Di Shitian. His slightly pale face could not help but blush, and his face was a little hot. He hurriedly threw these messy thoughts aside. A divine light flashed in his eyes. No matter what, I have to find a way to wake you up. His mind suddenly made up, and his pair of beautiful eyes slowly closed. At the same time, in her body, a trace of consciousness followed a kind of vague feeling and quickly escaped. When it reappeared, it actually appeared in Di Shitian's body. In Di Shitian's body, there were a total of 13 demonic veins. Among them, 3 were completely unobstructed, and were completely under his control. The Emperor's true force could freely travel through them, tempering his body and absorbing the power of the outside world for his own use. However, there were still 10 demonic veins that were sealed. Even the 10 terrifying desires in the demonic veins were sealed together. And the thing that sealed these 10 demonic veins was the half of the divine essence that he had obtained from Shi's body. If not for the divine essence in Shi's body, he would have completely died in the boundless desire that year. This divine essence was incomparably huge, and was accumulated by Shi for tens of thousands of years. Although it entered Di Shitian's body, it was only turned into a seal, and was not refined at all. There was a mysterious connection between her and Shi. If she really wanted to, she would have to pay a certain price. It was not that she did not have a chance to get back that half of the divine essence from him. Divine essence returns to one, fleeting youth. Shi had made use of the unbreakable connection between her and the divine essence to cross time and space in one fell swoop and enter Di Shitian's body with her consciousness. Suddenly, the third demonic meridian, which had sealed the entire demonic meridian, began to emit dense qi, as if it had come to life. It rapidly surged out of the demonic vein and rushed into Di Shitian's demonic abode. In an instant, it was as if it was pinched by an invisible hand. The ball of pure divine essence quickly gathered, and a dense qi emerged, condensing into a strange flower inside. This strange flower was 3 feet tall, and there was a flower at the top. The flower had 7 petals, and each petal had a different color: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. The 7 colors competed to shine on the petals, and it was exceptionally beautiful. There seemed to be an astonishing beauty in the flower, and at a glance, one could not help but feel a sense of pleasure and fondness. The flower seemed to possess the essence of all flowers in the world, including nobility, grace, elegance, pride, and so on. If one carefully sensed it, one could feel the temperament of almost all flowers in this 7-colored strange flower one by one. It was incomparably magical. What was truly inconceivable was that the 7 petals on the flower did not remain the same, nor did they remain still. Instead, after the 7-colored light bloomed, they began to wither one after another in an instant. The red petals began to wither, followed by the orange petals, and in the blink of an eye, they all withered away one after another. In an instant, several springs and autumns had passed. Fleeting youth flower, fleeting youth. In this world, only she possessed a divine ability that defied the natural order. One of a kind. If you really have me in your heart, then when you see this fleeting youth flower, you will be able to recall your unambiguous memories. If you have never had me in your heart, then I am only a kind of responsibility. After you pass away, she will leave behind your bloodline. A faint voice echoed in the demon residence, and the fleeting youth flower immediately rushed into the demon refining cauldron with a dense light, and directly disappeared into the 3rd-grade black lotus. Immediately after, the divine sense that belonged to she was withdrawn from Di Shitien's body. In the myriad demon valley, she opened his eyes again, and his body seemed to have been struck by lightning. With a poof, he spat out a mouthful of essence blood, and his face was as white as a sheet of paper. His expression was full of decadence. "Sister, what's wrong?" With a crash, outside, a vermilion red bird, whose body was emitting red flames and the aura of a divine beast, quickly descended from the sky. Looking at its appearance, who else could it be but the vermilion bird? She had the bloodline of the vermilion bird in her body, and after drinking an unknown amount of spirit wine, she was lucky enough to stimulate the bloodline in her body. She had truly begun to transform into the vermilion bird, and her body had also become 1 meter tall, with flames all over her body. She had also begun to transform into the fire of the vermilion bird. When she saw she spit out blood in the sky, she was shocked and quickly rushed down. "Master, tomorrow is Chongyang, let's go to the Wangfu cliff to watch the sunrise, and accompany you to relax. What do you think?" In a room full of ancient charm, Yi Qing and Yang Hongye snuggled together naked, and there was a strange flush on their faces. A jade hand was placed on his chest, gently drawing circles, and said coquettishly. That expression was indescribably seductive. At this moment, Yi Qing was already middle-aged. Looking at Yang Hongye, who looked exactly like Chen Shi, he smiled tenderly and said, "September 9th, Chongyang, going out to relax and watch the sunrise is a good idea." Gently stroking her soft hair, he naturally agreed. In the state of desire, he still didn't feel anything wrong. Everything in the world was no different from reality. He had long regarded himself as a person here, and he had never thought of anything else. If nothing unexpected happened, he would sink into this state forever. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 434. Di Shitian was at the critical moment of his breakthrough, so he had no idea what was going on outside. It was none other than the auction on Linglong Celestial Island. In the auction, some precious items were bought by Di Shitian alone. This was not a big problem. After all, with Linglong Pavilion's wealth, they could easily put up many rare treasures that were not inferior to the previous ones. These were not a big problem. The key was the last supreme treasure of the auction. All Heaven's Wheel. All Heaven's Wheel. In the world, as long as one had some understanding of the cultivation world and the rise of the human clan, most of them knew that there were legends of the 6 ancestors of Taoism and the 3 Buddhas of Buddhism among the human clan. For these famous experts in the universe, they might not know the secrets, but they knew some things that were on the surface. The All-Heavens Wheel was the supreme treasure that the reincarnation Buddha carried with him in his early years. It was quite unbelievable that it would appear in the auction. Before the auction, no one knew anything about it. As a result, when it was displayed, the whole auction was in an uproar. It was really too earth-shattering. When it was revealed, the whole auction hall was filled with eyeballs. According to legend, the All-Heavens Wheel actually contained the orthodoxy of the reincarnation Buddha. His unique cultivation method, All-Heavens reincarnation technique and enlightenment in dreams, could be comprehended by those who got the All-Heavens Wheel if they were fated to. Finally, they could inherit the orthodoxy of the reincarnation Buddha and become the reincarnation Buddha's successor. Among the three Buddhas of Buddhism, only the reincarnation Buddha had never taken a disciple. According to legend, he was the most concerned about opportunities. Without great luck, great opportunities, and great comprehension, he would not pass it to anyone. He was extremely strict about the orthodoxy. Therefore, although the All-Heavens Wheel itself was a rare treasure, what was really precious about it was the cultivation method and the divine ability it contained. It was the key to the orthodoxy. If one did not have the opportunity, even if he got it, he would not be able to comprehend anything from it for thousands of years. He could only use it as a magic treasure. What was even stranger was that this time, Linglong Pavilion did not take it out to auction like a normal auction. It was not a competition of wealth, but a competition of opportunity. As long as you believe that you have great luck and opportunity, you can go up there and try it yourself. Whoever can trigger a reaction from the Heaven's Wheel will be the destined successor of the reincarnation Buddha. The reincarnation Buddha will give the Heaven's Wheel to the other party for free. According to Linglong Pavilion, the celestial wheel was given to them by the Chakravarti Buddha to search for a successor. As a result, the auction became extremely chaotic. No matter who it was, they all held on to the mentality of trying their luck and experimenting. The process at that time was not worth mentioning. However, in the end, it was obtained by a monk named Daoji from Debi Temple, who was not inferior to the four great holy lands. Then, he floated away with the myriad heavens. There was another rumor that when monk Daoji brought the myriad heavens wheel to Cloud Dream Swamp, he was intercepted by three mysterious people. After a fierce battle, the myriad heavens wheel was split into two and disappeared together with everyone at that time. However, in a short period of time, the entire purple gold mainland was in turmoil because of this matter. Countless cultivators rushed into Cloud Dream Swamp as if they had gone mad. However, they also provoked a great demon hidden in Cloud Dream Swamp that had been in hibernation for countless years, the Kuan Peng. With just a mouth, it swallowed 100,000 cultivators. It was said that at that time, only a mysterious powerhouse named Perfected Lord Ku Rong rushed out with a huge bell. His cultivation was strong and his divine powers were powerful, shocking everyone. In this short period of time, many things happened in Purple Gold Mainland one after another. Between heaven and earth, there was a sudden storm. And all these happened when Di Shitian entered Tongtian Tower and was in seclusion to cultivate and break through. Obviously, he seemed to have missed out on some exciting events. However, if he had to choose between participating in those storms and breaking through and becoming stronger, he would not hesitate to make the same choice as now. Breaking through and becoming stronger. Only by becoming stronger could one have the ability to become the main character in the future trend of heaven and earth. Otherwise, it would be like the Yangtze River overtaking the waves in front, and the waves in front would fall on the dam. They would become the stepping stone of others. The 8 demon kings each took out their own assets and auctioned the materials to build the Heavenly Thunder platform without any hesitation. After the auction, they left together and were in a hurry to build the Heavenly Thunder platform that could use the Purple Thunder Rain. They were in a hurry to try the magical power of the Purple Thunder Rain with their own eyes and turn the demon clan's unfavorable situation around. At this moment, in Linglong Tower, Di Shitian was still immersed in the state of desire and was unaware of the world. Outside Qingping town, the scenery was extremely good. There was a famous place called Husband Gazing Cliff. It was more than 3,000 feet tall and the mountain peak was majestic. At the top of the mountain, there was a natural divine stone. It was a stone statue of a goddess looking into the distance with an expectant face. This stone statue could not be sculpted by human hands. It was connected to the mountain. It was perfect and flawless. This was the husband-gazing rock. The place where the stone statue stood was called the husband-gazing cliff. There was a beautiful legend about this cliff. It was said that a long, long time ago, at the foot of the mountain, there lived a couple. The husband was a scholar, and the wife was virtuous. It could be said that they were a very loving couple. One year, the husband went to the capital to take the imperial exam. The wife missed her husband so much that she climbed the cliff every day. She looked at the path home, hoping to see the figure of her husband returning home. Day after day, but for some reason, her husband did not leave. For many years, there was no news of him, and he did not return home. The wife did not have any other ability. She could only go up the mountain and look into the distance every day, waiting for her husband's return with hope. However, she went with hope every day, and when she returned, she only brought with her deep disappointment. Finally, 3 years later, when the wife went up the mountain to wait for her husband again, she died of exhaustion. Her body turned into a husband-gazing rock and stood there, forever looking in the direction of her husband's return. Husband, what a sad and beautiful story. On the husband-gazing cliff, Yang Hongye, who looked exactly like Chen Shi, nestled in Yi Qing's arms emotionally. There were tears in her eyes. She looked at Yi Qing expectantly and said, "Husband, if you leave me one day, I will also be like this husband-gazing rock, waiting for your return." Her expression was full of affection. Yi Qing gently hugged the delicate body in his arms and said softly, "Silly, how can you say such things? Don't worry, I will never leave you." There was a determined look on his face. It was as if this was an eternal promise. Yes. Yang Hongye exuded a strong sense of happiness. Suddenly, Yang Hongye stretched out her jade-like hand and pointed to the east, shouting cheerfully, "Look, the sun is about to rise." Looking at the horizon, a golden light broke free from the darkness. Although it was weak, it was unusually tough, as if it was going to sweep away the whole darkness. Slowly, hundreds of millions of rays of light bloomed in the east, dyeing the surrounding clouds red. Chen Shi seemed to burst out with endless vitality. At this moment, life began to bloom again. A wisp of purple air came automatically. The scene of the sun breaking free from the darkness inch by inch from the horizon, if observed carefully, would definitely give an indescribable sense of shock. That kind of unyielding spirit, that kind of light, that kind of struggle for life, all kinds of feelings, could be clearly felt in Chen Shi at sunrise. Sitting on the top of the cliff, looking at the morning sun. Tens of thousands of rays of golden light enveloped the top of the cliff, as if bathed in countless rays of Buddha's light. The morning sun is so good. Yi Qing sighed. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed as he looked at the first light of dawn. A rainbow-colored divine light suddenly escaped the first light of dawn and descended from the sky, quickly flying towards Wangfu Cliff. This divine light caused his pupils to contract violently. Crash! The divine light landed with a soft sound in front of Yi Qing. It was a rainbow-colored, dreamy, and incomparably gorgeous flower. The 7 petals reflected each other's brilliance, and one after another, they disappeared in a continuous cycle. The unique aura inside was also constantly changing. The moment it appeared, all the colors in the world seemed to lose their color. Even the morning sun that was full of vitality dimmed. It was as if all the beauty in the world was condensed on this strange flower. There were no words in the world that could describe its beauty. Because in an instant, the strange flower disappeared, and all kinds of divine charm flickered continuously. In an instant, eternity had passed. This is the momentary wonder flower, the momentary youth. The moment he saw the momentary wonder flower, although Yi Qing had never seen it before, he strangely blurted out its name. Then, as if it had received some kind of signal, the momentary wonder flower transformed into a beam of divine light and rushed into Yi Qing's forehead. It was as if a shocking bolt of lightning had flashed through his mind, shattering some nameless shackles with a cracking sound. Suddenly, in the depths of his mind, sealed memories emerged. Southern Wildlands' myriad demon valley. Chen Shi. Mother. Little White. In an instant, Countless memories poured out like a fountain, and his original memories were restored. My name is Di Shitian. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. After a moment of silence, all of his memories were completely restored. His will was incomparably tough, but he had been caught off guard by the realm of desire, which had sealed him in one fell swoop. He had thrown himself into this strange illusory world, but he hadn't had the opportunity to break the seal. Now, the appearance of fleeting youth had brought him this opportunity, and he instantly understood his situation. Incredible. Truly incredible. Who would have thought that the realm of desire would be so terrifying? The momentary wonder flower? That's Chen Shi. When Di Shitian thought about the current situation, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. Beyond redemption. Just a little bit more, and he would be beyond redemption. If he really did run out of longevity in this illusory world and died, then he would truly perish, perishing in the boundless realm of desire. In this illusory world, his life was filled with endless luck, with endless happy events. As long as he wished for something, it would come true. Such a life was one that he wouldn't trade for even if he were given an immortal. When he was entangled by family and emotions, it was impossible to break free. Instead, he would sink deeper and deeper. In the end, his mind would be deceived, and he would be unable to recover. Even now, he couldn't leave the realm of desire, because he had yet to transcend the joy and obsession of the realm of desire. Without seeing through it, there was no way to transcend. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 435. Entering the state of desire was to be reborn after death. If you didn't succeed, you would die trying. Once you entered, you couldn't see through the state of desire. If you detached yourself from desire, even if your memory was clear, you still couldn't leave this illusory world. Only by experiencing it and transcending it could you be qualified to master it. In itself, it was to let you experience it, comprehend it, and integrate yourself into it. In each comprehension, you could be sad and happy in one heart. I can rejoice in joy, I can mourn in sorrow, but I can clearly see through the essence of it. Be it sorrow or joy, when I should be happy, I can laugh loudly. I can follow my heart, but I can't control it. When I should be sad, I can cry loudly. Do as you please, integrate into it, but transcend it. Finally control it. Only in this way could you absorb the infinite power of desire between heaven and earth, and not be affected by the obsession of the infinite creatures in it. You could always keep your heart unchanged. That was the highest realm. Once you could do that, your own realm would increase at an incredible speed in an instant, and enter a completely different level. Once the realm was high, you could control your own power to a more subtle level. You could clearly control every bit of power. Yang Hongye, Chen Shi, Yi Qing, no, it should be Di Shitian, looked at Yang Hongye in his arms with a smile and a face full of happiness. She had actually closed her eyes and fallen asleep. Looking at the beautiful face that was exactly the same as Chen Shi's, his heartstrings couldn't help but tug. Was this an illusion or reality? Was it Yang Hongye or Chen Shi? No matter whether this world is real or not, since I've woken up, let me experience this life personally, feel the things of the mortal world, and experience the life of an ordinary person that I couldn't experience in my previous life. Hongye, my promise to you is still valid. Di Shitian digested the decades of experience in this world one by one. A relaxed smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he lovingly kissed Hongye's forehead. His eyes flashed with confidence. If he wanted to be the emperor, heaven and earth couldn't stop him. Di Shitian, who had recovered his memory, was not anxious. Just like before, he blended into this world, lived seriously, and experienced everything in life. He could use this world to comprehend himself. He was not in a hurry to speak. He had long since known that the passage of time in the realm of desire was different from the passage of time outside. In the blink of an eye in the outside world, several springs and autumns would have passed in the realm of desire. Even if the heavenly tribulation was bombarding his demonic body, he was confident. Even if he relied on his own instincts, with the Huangji true force in his body, he would not be afraid of it in a short period of time. Although the tribulation lightning was scary, at the end of its destruction, there was an endless power of creation. When the Huangji true force was first formed, it relied on the power of creation contained within the tribulation lightning to form. He wanted to use the heavenly tribulation to temper his demonic body, rumble. The tribulation lightning above his head continued to bombard Di Shitian. At this moment, under the nourishment of the boundless spirit qi in the surroundings, the black tiger's body continuously expanded at a speed that was visible to the naked eye, growing taller and taller. But now, it had grown from 1,000 feet to its current size of 2,000 feet. Although its skin and flesh had been torn apart by the tribulation lightning, its body was faintly glowing with a dark treasure light. Its wounds were also healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Standing proudly under the thousands of lightning bolts, it was as if an ancient demon god had descended, its power boundless. In Di Shitian's body, there was an earth-shattering change. Because Chen Shi had extracted the momentary divine splendor from the seal of the fourth demonic vein, the enormous power of desire that had been accumulating in the demonic vein for all these years suddenly roared like an angry sea. The power of desire that was as black as ink rushed out of the demonic vein on the spot, surging towards the other 3 demonic veins, and rushed into the heart. Bang! The power of desire was like an angry lion, directly rushing into the demonic spirit residence and rampaging madly in the demonic spirit residence. The demonic spirit residence grew stronger as Di Shitian grew stronger. After a series of breakthroughs, the demonic spirit residence had now become the size of a pond, with the demon refining cauldron in the center. The power of desire in the fourth demonic vein was the power of anger. Anger was also one of the 7 emotions and 6 sensory pleasures. The matters of the world were often caused by anger, resulting in countless tragedies. Anger also represented a violent rage, incomparably ferocious, with terrifying destructive and corrosive power. Moreover, it occupied the demonic spirit residence, but did not enter the demon refining cauldron. Instead, it gathered endlessly in the demonic spirit residence, turning into a pitch-black wave that filled every corner of the demonic spirit residence, crazily crashing in all directions, attacking the entire demonic spirit residence. As soon as the ferocious power of desire appeared, it wanted to vent its anger from being imprisoned, rolling up shocking waves again and again. Roaring, it transformed into various terrifying fierce beasts, the primordial ape, the jade-wave purple squirrel, the raging flood dragon, and so on, condensed into various shapes and fiercely bombarded the demonic spirit residence. That momentum was actually about to smash the demonic spirit residence into smithereens, completely destroying it. Roar! The primordial ape roared, stepping on the black waves. Beneath its feet, monstrous waves roared and surged. A sky-covering ape claw suddenly swung out above its head, stirring up the demonic spirit residence and causing it to shake violently wherever it passed. The claw seemed to contain a terrifying power that could destroy the heavens and earth, and was about to attack the demonic spirit residence's walls, breaking the demonic spirit residence. Even the raging waves below it strangely calmed down under this claw, as if they were also afraid. Ding dong! However, at this critical moment, the 7 sins demonic zither that had been nurtured in the demonic spirit residence suddenly emitted thousands of rays of divine light. The 9 strings of the zither vibrated on their own, producing mysterious melodies. With the 7 sins as the center, countless sound waves scattered, turning into musical notes that connected to form an airtight sound net. It descended from the sky, binding the entire demonic spirit residence in an instant. Then, it flew into the air and landed on top of the primordial ape, emitting endless divine light to suppress the raging desire. Rumble. After an unknown amount of time, the 3rd-grade black lotus in the demon refining cauldron was like a bottomless pit, crazily swallowing all the power in the cauldron. The power of the heavens and earth and the power of desire that surged in from the outside did not even stop for a moment, instantly entering the black lotus. On the black lotus, the 3rd-grade black lotus, which was slightly dimmer than the other 2 grades, suddenly brightened and quickly became the same color as the other positions. At the same time, The huge power of desire contained in the third-grade Black Lotus suddenly broke through the walls and completely surged into the Black Lotus seed in the center of the Black Lotus. When it gushed out, it faintly turned into pure royal true power. Then, it gathered with the other true power in the Black Lotus and magically fused together. The royal true power faintly contained 3 kinds of desires. Boom! The Black Lotus shook, and thousands of needle-like divine light burst out from the third-grade Black Lotus. The lotus shook, and the 11 runes on the Black Lotus turned into a long river of runes that revolved around the Black Lotus. The divine light on the Black Lotus was like the divine splendor of the sun and moon, constantly flowing. A figure condensed on the Black Lotus without warning. It was Di Shitian. Stepping on the Black Lotus, his expression carried a trace of worry and a rare joy. The third transformation of the demon core is complete. Chen Shi, it's all thanks to you this time. If it weren't for the timely appearance of the moment divine flower and triggering my memories, I might really have been tricked by the realm of desire and would have sunk into it forever. Beyond redemption. The third transformation of the demon core, with the mask of the ultimate emperor, I am the demon king. Di Shitian's chest was still suppressing the anger. Now, with the third transformation of the demon core, with the mask of the ultimate emperor, he would rise to the fourth transformation of the demon core. The realm of the ancient demon king. Who is the demon king? I am the demon king. An arrogant and domineering aura arose spontaneously, and a strange light flashed in his cold eyes. He noticed the abnormality in the demon residence. Chen Shi extracted the divine splendor of my fourth demon vein, and now the power of anger is beginning to erupt, no wonder. But now, be obedient and be tamed by me. Di Shitian thought for a moment and understood what was happening in front of him. The divine splendor filled the demon vein, sealing the power of desire in the demon vein. According to the plan, after mastering the first 3 demon veins in his body, he would begin to use the ultimate emperor true force to break through the 4th demon vein, constantly breaking through the divine splendor and opening up the demon vein. This method was gentler and could be done bit by bit. But Chen Shi's extraction caused the gentleness to become irritable, and all the power of desire erupted, resulting in the current situation. Fortunately, the 7 sins suppressed it. Otherwise, although it might not necessarily destroy the demon residence, it would at least cause some damage to the demon residence. Demon refining cauldron, devour desire. Di Shitian looked at the torrential power of desire in the demon residence. Not only was he not afraid, but he was also looking forward to it. With a thought, the demon refining cauldron immediately began to show its power. The 3-legged jade cauldron suddenly began to rotate counterclockwise, and suddenly, a terrifying hurricane swept up in the demon residence, emitting a terrifying devouring power that was countless times stronger than before. It covered the entire demon residence. The reason why the heaven-grade demon residence was called heaven-grade was because the demon refining cauldron was the key. It suppressed the demon residence and could refine thousands of forces. At this moment, when it showed its power, the originally incomparably ferocious power of anger was immediately swept into the cauldron without any resistance. After waves of power of anger rushed into the cauldron, it turned into a long river. It seemed to be roaring. Power of anger, enter my Black Lotus. Di Shitian covered the sky with his palm and directly stretched out his right hand towards the long river. He grabbed it, captured it, and stepped on it. The Black Lotus under his feet trembled violently, emitting a tyrannical devouring power. It restrained the power of anger. It was swept into the Black Lotus. Rumble. As soon as the power of rage entered the Black Lotus, a drastic change occurred. The Black Lotus trembled unceasingly, like an inflated balloon. It started to swell violently. In the blink of an eye, it had more than doubled in size. With a crash, countless black lights burst out, intertwining and covering the Black Lotus. A huge amount of power of anger crazily rushed into the lotus. In just a few breaths, all the power of anger in the 4th demon vein in the demon residence was swallowed like a whale sucking in water. Countless divine lights shone on each other. In the Black Lotus, there were traces of terrifying power spiraling. Unknowingly, the 3rd grade Black Lotus suddenly had an additional grade, becoming a 4th grade Black Lotus. Those who have votes, please cast a few votes. To be continued, please go to www.chidian.com for more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 436. 4th grade Black Lotus. With the addition of the power of wrath, the Black Lotus had transformed from the 3rd grade to the 4th grade. However, the luster of the new 1st grade was much dimmer than the original 3rd grade. Inside, there was not the royal true force, but the power of wrath of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Inside, there was still the power of desire. It was clearly separated from the other parts of the Black Lotus, and the royal true force could not enter. Moreover, it was also unable to mobilize the power of wrath. However, with the addition of the 1st grade, the aura of the Black Lotus suddenly increased by several times. In the body, all the power of wrath was like a swallow returning to its nest. It continuously rushed in and occupied the new 1st grade space. The more power of wrath entered, the more the luster of the new 1st grade space gradually increased. Good. 3rd transformation monster core, 4th grade Black Lotus. Di Shitian could not suppress the ecstasy in his heart. He could clearly feel that after the Black Lotus merged with the power of joy, the Black Lotus had become several times stronger. The Black Lotus itself had become tougher and stronger. Moreover, the Black Lotus itself was Di Shitian's monster core. The stronger the Black Lotus, the stronger his strength. The tougher the Black Lotus, the harder it was to be destroyed. As long as the Black Lotus was not destroyed, he would not die. As for the newly added 4th grade, it was a container for a new kind of power of desire. It was used to store and absorb other kinds of power of desire, so that one could absorb the new power of desire without being affected by it, and continuously gather it into the body. When the Black Lotus in the body was full of Huangji true power, and the new 4th grade stored abundant power of desire, it would reach the peak of the 3rd transformation of the monster core. At that time, it would be the time to experience the test of desire again. This feeling is more than 10 times stronger than before. Mastering 3 types of power of desire, my cultivation speed has increased by 9 times compared to normal. Even if he didn't deliberately circulate his cultivation technique, he could clearly feel that in the world, whether it was the power of desire or the power of the world, they were all rushing into his body, endlessly converging towards the demon palace. This kind of speed was really not a normal kind of pleasurable feeling. Almost every time he breathed, he could feel the power in his body increasing. Temph, it's time to deal with the heavenly tribulation. After bombarding me for such a long time, if it weren't for my strong demonic body, I would have been blown to smithereens. Di Shitian's gaze suddenly turned cold and sharp. His mind instantly returned to his body and he temporarily put everything else aside. Outside, the heavenly tribulation continued to bombard him with incomparable ferocity. It was as if they were determined to completely erase him from this world. Look in the sky above the vast grassland, a huge 3-colored tribulation cloud covered the sky. Countless bolts of lightning flashed through the clouds as a vast pressure spread out in all directions. If there were any other living beings nearby, they would probably all be pressed to the ground. That pressure was so terrifying that even the air seemed to be frozen. Bolts of lightning fell down like raindrops. Below, there was a black tiger that was 600 meters tall. Its entire body emitted a shocking aura of a king. Just by standing there, it gave off a terrifying feeling that it could not be shaken. The boundless power that burst out from its body made it look like an ancient demon god. Every time the purple king mark on its forehead flashed, it could make its aura soar. However, under the heavenly tribulation, it had been passively receiving the tribulation thunder. Countless wounds were blasted all over its body. Some of them were so deep that the bones could be seen. It looked abnormally terrifying. Suddenly, from the black tiger, a thick ink-like demonic aura suddenly spurted out. It quickly spewed out from the countless pores all over its body. In the blink of an eye, it formed a strong demonic aura that covered its entire body. The tribulation thunder that was originally blasting on its body was blocked by the demonic aura. Even if it was violently tumbling, it did not fall on the monster's body. At the same time, A thick layer of black divine light appeared on the monster's body. It quickly flowed all over its body. Wherever the black light went, countless granulation appeared on the edges of all the wounds. Then, at a speed visible to the naked eye, it quickly closed and healed. In a few breaths, its entire body was completely restored. The imperial true force in its body quickly traveled through its body and refined the tribulation thunder that was wantonly destroying its body. Boom! His tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and a shocking aura instantly exploded out, causing a terrifying shockwave to spread out in all directions, overbearingly repelling all the power in the surroundings. Heavenly tribulation. Heavenly tribulation is also unable to do anything to this king. Raising his eyes, a pair of tiger eyes shone brightly. They burst out 3 feet away, full of dominance, looking at the tribulation cloud above his head. Domineeringly, he spat out a cold sentence. Whoosh! Opening its bloody mouth, it faced the void and sucked fiercely. Suddenly, a hurricane rolled up in the void. All the air and energy crazily rushed into the tiger's mouth. His entire body also violently expanded. It was a violent expansion, like an inflated balloon. In the blink of an eye, it had expanded to more than 800 feet. It was as if it had swallowed the sky into its stomach. Roar! Suddenly, an unprecedentedly domineering tiger roar came out of Di Shitian's mouth. This roar could be said to have gathered all the chi in its body and even more than half of the imperial true force in its body. It rushed up to its throat and let out a terrifying tiger roar that could destroy heaven and earth. The tiger roar shook the heaven and earth. Frightening ghost god! The entire exquisite pagoda, as if hundreds of millions of heavenly lightning had exploded at the same time, shaking the void violently. In front of and around him, the space was shaken to the point of collapse and even annihilation. Waves of black sound waves surged like a tide towards the tribulation cloud above his head. Bang! This tiger roar, roaring above his head, caused the thousands of lightning to collapse on the spot. Even the endless pressure emitted by the tribulation cloud seemed to have dissipated in an instant. It was as if they were facing the anger of a supreme emperor. When the emperor was angry, corpses would fall for thousands of miles. Even the heavens and earth would be affected by the emperor's anger. Countless sound waves surged like a tide, enveloping the entire tribulation cloud and constantly attacking. Every sound wave was constantly shaking violently. Wherever it passed, the space was almost unavoidably distorted. Enveloping the tribulation cloud, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of violent vibrations. On the spot, the tribulation cloud was shaken into dust. Suddenly, a large area of the tribulation cloud was constantly crushed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a moment, all the tribulation cloud was completely annihilated. Crash! Just at the moment when the tribulation cloud dissipated. In the void, a tricolored light pillar appeared out of thin air, descending from the sky, ignoring everything. Even the sound waves could not have the slightest effect on it. It crossed the boundary of time and space. It fell straight on Di Shitian's body, completely covering his entire body. At the same time, Di Shitian clearly felt that in this heavenly divine light, a pure energy surged into his body like a tide. This energy, after a brief observation, was found to be the 3 forces of the 5 elements: metal, wood, and water. And it was the purest of the 5 elements. Once it entered his body, it directly integrated into the whole demon body's flesh and blood. Raw. This energy, not only was it pure, but it was also terrifyingly huge. Once it surged into the body, it did not transform into cultivation, but only blindly strengthened the physical body. Once it entered the flesh and blood, it was completely integrated and absorbed without the slightest reluctance. Every cell in the body was full of energy, frantically dividing and spreading, and the demon body began to expand violently. From 2,000 feet, it kept growing crazily, and with a whoosh, it grew by a few hundred feet. That powerful feeling of power gave people a strange feeling of valiance. This was the reward given by heaven and earth to those who had survived the calamity, and it was also the recognition of heaven and earth. With this pure energy, not only did the injuries in his body disappear, but the energy in his body was also completely restored to its peak state. His demon body grew to 3,000 feet, and every inch of his flesh and blood contained a shocking amount of power. He had a feeling that even a casual pounce like this could crush a 1,000-foot mountain into powder. With a step, the earth was about to split open. With a roar, it shook the world, and even ghosts and gods were shocked. When the demon body reached 3,000 feet, the light pillar that condensed around it dissipated. With a flash of black light, Di Shitian returned to his human form again, wearing a black robe. The majesty on his body was even stronger than before. Suddenly, the 7 sins demonic zither and tiger soul flew out of his body at the same time. The strings on the 7 sins demonic zither vibrated, emitting waves of tempting music. His mind was constantly daydreaming, and the desire in his body was rising. Around him, a massive amount of desire power formed a tornado and entered the zither. The body of the zither also became pitch black under the infusion of countless desire power. On the body of the zither, countless divine lights flashed. They intertwined to form a large pitch-black cocoon. The 7 sins has been promoted again. Seeing this scene, Di Shitian could not help but feel a burst of joy. Last time, the 7 sins demonic zither had undergone a transformation, and it was promoted from a supreme-grade instrument to a lower-grade instrument. Now, with his breakthrough to the 3rd transformation of the Yarodan, it attracted a massive amount of desire power and stepped into the promotion process at the same time. It was going to be promoted to a middle-grade instrument. This was the magical part of a natal instrument. It could be continuously promoted along with the improvement of its master, and it had unlimited possibilities. However, when the tiger soul flew out, it was surrounded by a golden divine light. Within the saber light, there was a thick smell of blood, containing boundless dominance, and a murderous aura that shocked the 9 heavens. The fishbone-like patterns on the tiger's soul saber appeared even more vivid and lifelike. The tiger's soul's edge became even sharper, bringing with it a fiendish aura. The figure of a divine tiger was faintly discernible within the saber. There was a spirituality in the saber. The tiger soul has finally completed its transformation. It is now a middle-grade instrument. With the sharpness of the tiger soul, who can compete with it? Di Shitian reached out and held the tiger soul in his hand. His eyes became abnormally bright. He placed his left hand on the saber and gently stroked it. The tiger soul released waves of saber cries, and the green bead on the tiger soul became even greener. The ability to devour souls and blood contained within the saber became even more powerful. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 437. The strongest thing about Tiger Soul was its unparalleled sharpness. It could devour souls and blood. The essence and blood of the enemies who died under Tiger Soul would be devoured by Tiger Soul along with their own souls, turning into the power of Tiger Soul. It would accumulate and become the foundation for another upgrade. With Tiger Soul's sharpness, even a high-grade or supreme-grade magic weapon might not be comparable to it. Based on the current situation, I'm afraid that the next upgrade to a high-grade magic weapon, the spirituality in the saber, should be able to condense a saber soul. Its power will definitely increase greatly. Sakura looked at the 2 treasures in front of him with joy. Ever since he had refined the 7 sins demonic zither and the tiger soul, he had no intention of continuing to refine other life source celestial devices. These 2 were enough. After all, although the life source celestial device had the possibility of continuous advancement, it required a lot of energy and a lot of capital to cultivate. Especially Tiger Soul, it only had the chance to be upgraded continuously in battle. When it really climbed to an unbelievable level, the number of souls that died under the Tiger Soul Saber would be in the tens of millions or even billions. This was simply a weapon of slaughter. When the saber was drawn, there must be blood and lives must fall under the saber. When Tiger Soul shines again, heaven and earth will be the emperor. Who in the world can compete with it? As for 7 sins, Di Shitian had already thought about how to upgrade and become stronger in the future. First, he had to find the legendary 9 spiritual pearls. Each of them was a divine item of heaven and earth. If he used all of them on the zither, it would definitely make 7 sins the strongest treasure in the world. The sound of the zither was accompanied by the power of heaven and earth, accompanied by the thunder in the sky and the wind in the void. That was a scene that made people yearn for. Clang. He gently stroked Tiger Soul a few times and put it back into the scabbard on his back. Tiger Soul's sharpness was restrained. It seemed that 7 sins needed a lot of time to upgrade. It could not be done in a short time. He did not pay too much attention to it. This was not the first time. Without thinking about anything else, he found an empty place to sit down. He closed his eyes and began to familiarize himself with the explosive power in his body. In particular, the third demon meridian had been completely mastered. The imperial true power could be channeled inside. There was also the newly added fourth demon meridian. Although the fourth demon meridian was filled with a large amount of power of rage, it was still absorbing the power of desire in the void. It poured into the demon manor. However, the fourth demonic vein had already been opened. The power of desire was also constantly nourishing his physical body, allowing his demonic body to slowly adapt to the newly added power of rage. When he fully grasped it in the future, he would be able to circulate it without any hindrance, and would be able to unleash the full potential of the power of rage. Although an explosive increase in strength could bring about a sense of power, it did not mean that one's strength would increase. On the contrary, an explosive increase in strength would often cause one's strength to decrease in the following period of time. The reason was very simple. If a sharp saber that could cut through gold and jade was in the hands of a child, it was a big problem whether the child would hurt the enemy first or hurt himself first. Whether he could wield it or not, it was a big problem. Only by absorbing this energy, completely mastering it and familiarizing it to the point where it was as easy as waving one's arm, could it be considered as truly becoming a part of one's strength. After all these years, Di Shitian was no longer a little demon who did not know anything. He had his own understanding of these things. So, he did not think about anything else. First, he silently ran the third tier of the Extreme King's shocking book. He kept refining his true power and familiarizing himself with the explosive increase in power in his body. Feeling the pure Emperor true power flowing through his demonic veins like a divine spring, that kind of carefree feeling made him gradually immerse himself in it. The exquisite pagoda's power of reversing time and space gave him plenty of time to familiarize himself with the power in his body and his new level. Every time he reached a new level, the way he looked at things changed. 1 year. For a whole year, Di Shitian did not do anything. He just quietly absorbed the power in his body. Every day, he continued his habit of practicing his knife skills. He kept practicing the Extreme King's Way knife skill in his mind, trying to figure out the second style of the knife skill. The increase in power had allowed him to develop some patterns. His swordsmanship was getting more and more exquisite. Every time he brandished his sword, Sakura could clearly feel the trajectories of heaven and earth in the void. When the sword was brandished along these trajectories, not only did it have a wonderful and comfortable feeling, it could also draw the power of heaven and earth from those trajectories onto the sword, bursting out an amazing power. Bang! On this day, Di Shitian stepped forward, and the tiger soul in his hand was swinging one knife after another. Suddenly, the knife slashed forward heavily. In the void, the power of the sky and the earth was applied to the tiger soul. Suddenly, the tiger soul burst out a 1,000-foot-long knife aura and slashed the ground. The tiger soul's knife aura was very sharp. When it landed on the ground was cut in half like tofu. A bottomless knife scar appeared in front of him. Inside, there was a terrifying knife aura that was wantonly destroying everything. Looking at the black cocoon that was still floating in the air, Tiger Soul returned to its scabbard. He turned his head and looked at the stairway on the left. The stairway to heaven had 49 steps. At the end of the stairway to heaven was a door made of purple gold. It emitted a simple and ancient aura, and countless mysterious patterns appeared on it. It was very mysterious. It added a bit of ancient charm. At the end of the stairway was the pagoda door. Behind the door was the third heaven of the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. When he reached the first transformation stage, He pushed open the second door and entered the second layer of heaven. When he reached the second transformation stage, he tried to see if he could open the door and enter the third layer of heaven, but he couldn't. Back then, when he reached the 9th step of the stairway, he was pushed down by the vast force emitted by the stairway. At that time, Di Shitian guessed that if he wanted to enter the third transformation stage, he would have to reach the third transformation stage. The first transformation stage could reverse time by 10 times. The second transformation stage could reverse time by 50 times. How many times could the third transformation stage reverse time? Di Shitian's mind was filled with anticipation. With a wave of his sleeve, he walked towards the stairway without hesitation. There were 49 steps on the stairway. With every step, the pressure on one's body would become stronger. If one's strength was not enough, it would be impossible to pass. However, after opening the door, he would not have to go through so much trouble and could enter directly. Pardieu. Di Shitian stepped onto the first step. Suddenly, a tyrannical pressure burst out from the steps under his feet and fell on his body. It was enough to make a core formation stage cultivator lie down on the spot and roll down the stairs. However, for Di Shitian, this was nothing out of the ordinary. His current demonic body was so powerful that he could even face a cultivator at the peak of the body integration stage head-on. He didn't need any other power, just his physical body. This little bit of power did not affect him in the slightest. Without hesitation, he continued to walk up the stairs. Step by step, he easily reached the 9th step. Even at this point, he still did not circulate his royal true force. Although the pressure on his demonic body was immense, his steps were still steady and his body was still tall and straight. Today, I will open this door. Di Shitian secretly made up his mind. He had a hunch that behind this door, there must be something that could change his destiny waiting. The thing that he obtained in the heavenly demon secret realm was very likely behind this door. Bang, bang, bang. Under the heavy pressure, every step Xiao Chen took felt like he was shaking the mountain range, giving off muffled rumbling sounds. Xiao Chen continued to rely on the strength of his physical body to climb up step by step. Under his clothes, the muscles all over his body wriggled unceasingly like dragons. When he climbed to the 23rd step, Di Shitian felt his entire demon body tremble violently. It was as if his flesh and blood were about to collapse. The pressure was too terrifying. He did not force it and immediately exhaled. Waves of Huangji true force gushed into his demon body like a fountain and quickly condensed a layer of protective shield around his body to block the pressure. Countless divine lights flashed around his body, and an astonishing demon aura soared into the sky like smoke signals. From afar, it was as if the heavens and earth were about to split open and break through the boundless pressure. His body also suddenly became lighter. The pressure was suddenly reduced. But he did not relax. He focused his mind and quickly climbed up. After breaking through to the third transformation of the Yarudan, his strength had increased by almost 10 times. He was extremely tyrannical. Just by relying on his physical body, he was almost halfway up. Once again, he used the Huangji true force. For a moment, he displayed his peak combat strength. Step by step, he walked up domineeringly. With every step, there was a burst of air around him. His aura surged and set off a shocking wave of air. The pressure emitted by the stairway could no longer stop him. Almost without stopping for a moment, step by step, he steadily walked up the 49th stairway and reached the door of the ancient purple golden pagoda. Open! Spitting out a thunderous sound, he placed his right hand on the door and pushed with all his might. The royal realm true force poured into his arm without reservation, causing his entire arm to emit countless rays of divine light. Under the interweaving, this push had the force of 1,000 catties. Even if it was a mountain, it would collapse on the spot. Jar jar. With a dull sound, this ancient door that seemed to have been standing here since ancient times was finally pushed open. Moreover, it was only pushed open a little bit. This door was really frighteningly heavy. It was almost certain that without a strong body like Di Shitian's, even if other demons reached the third transformation of the Yarudan, they might not be able to push this door open. The door slowly opened, and countless rays of light secretly ran out from the door. Standing in front of the door, Di could not help but close his eyes and take a deep breath. The fatigue in his body seemed to disappear with this breath. Phew! What rich spiritual energy, it's actually 10 times richer than the second level. It's no worse than the blessed enclave outside. Di murmured in surprise. Sure enough, the third transformation can actually reverse time by 100 times. 1 to 100, a year outside is 100 years here. A treasure, it's really a supreme treasure. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 438. An inch of time was worth an inch of gold. An inch of gold could not buy an inch of time. To cultivators, regardless of race, time was both cheap and precious. It could be seen, but could not be grasped. Perhaps a single period of seclusion could be 100 years, or even 1,000 years. However, if one did not become a greater demon, demon saint, or even a celestial demon, there would always be a limit to one's lifespan. The demon clan was born. Even a demon beast, as long as it did not encounter misfortune, could have a lifespan of thousands of years, not to mention the more powerful demon clan. But even so, one's lifespan was not as long as the heavens and earth, or as glorious as the sun and moon. There was always a limit. Unless one cultivated to the indestructible body, or made one's body indestructible, then one's vitality would always be exuberant. One could maintain one's lifespan without exhaustion, or an indestructible primordial spirit. With an indestructible primordial spirit, one could rebuild one's body. But to reach that level, not everyone could do it. Aptitude, cultivation method, and lifespan were all obstacles that restricted all things in the world from entering the indestructible realm. Once one cultivated an indestructible body, or an indestructible primordial spirit, one would be an eternal giant. Time could not erase one's divine glory. Blades and swords could not destroy one's body. In the world, since ancient times, those who could truly reach that level could be counted on one's fingers. Therefore, for cultivators in the world, time was not something that could be described as an inch of gold. Abundant time was something that everyone wanted. Moreover, this kind of time, would not be used on one's body and deplete one's lifespan. 1 year outside was 100 years inside, but in the pagoda, one's lifespan would not be depleted. It would only be shaving off 1 year's lifespan. This was equivalent to using 1 year's lifespan as 100 years. This was the real magic of the Linglong treasure pagoda that could be called the word fortune. Otherwise, how could it be called a supreme treasure? Heavenly Demon Zu, Heavenly Demon, what kind of incredible realm is a heavenly demon to have such heaven-defying magic? Zu, I will definitely accept your kindness. Di did not need to deliberately absorb it. He could feel the rich spiritual qi in the air just by breathing casually. It naturally entered his body like breathing or drinking water. His expression quickly changed as he muttered to himself. Over the years, he had already guessed that this exquisite fortune pagoda was most likely a natal treasure refined by heavenly monster Ziua herself. If she really had a backup plan and could be reborn again, then this exquisite fortune pagoda would definitely not be controlled by him. At this moment, at most, it would be borrowed. However, even so, the help it provided to him was immeasurable. Gathering his thoughts, he passed through the pagoda door and entered the third layer of heaven. He looked around. It's actually a large ancient forest. Di was slightly surprised. In front of him, there were towering ancient trees everywhere. He had never seen most of the ancient trees before. They were as thick as the trees in the inner world of Tongtian Tower. The amount of time it had lived was unimaginably long. Moreover, there was a dense yiwood qi drifting in the forest. If a cultivator who cultivated a wood attribute cultivation method were to cultivate here, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. The inside of the pagoda was still very vast, with no end in sight. Regretfully, this place was the same as the other two heavens and earth, with no other life forms. It seemed unusually lonely. Hey, what's that? Just as he was sizing up his surroundings, he suddenly saw a strange light flash in the east from the corner of his eye. It emitted a powerful source energy. A familiar aura appeared in his heart. He quickly turned his head to look. What's glowing on the mountain peak? Could it be a treasure left behind in this first layer of heaven from the heavenly monster secret realm? In the east, there was a mountain peak that was a few hundred feet tall. On the mountain peak, there was not a single blade of grass, but there was an ancient octagonal altar. The strange light just now was emitted from the altar. Even if one was standing 10,000 feet away, one could still clearly see the strange purple light on the altar. This purple light was not big, only the size of a fist. However, the light it emitted seemed to be able to cross the boundary of heaven and earth and reach the eyes of every living being in the third layer of heaven. It was gentle and not dazzling, but it carried a simple and mysterious power as if it was boundless. Lunatic DI, what are you waiting for? This is obviously the origin energy of a small world. There's a small world on the altar. TSK, if I'm not wrong, that small world should be the heavenly monster secret realm you mentioned before. Aren't there millions of demons in it? Hurry up and subdue them. Your forces will be greatly strengthened. Dark, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly shouted excitedly in his mind. Could that be the heavenly monster secret realm that was sucked into the Linglong treasure pagoda? Di Shitian's eyes suddenly lit up. According to legend, the heavenly monster secret realm was a small world created by a world source seed. If that was true, then the purple light on the altar could be the secret realm that he had always wanted. Thinking of this, he could not help but shout, "Good, good, good. Destiny is on my side." Not only did I break through to the third transformation of Yaodan, but it also allowed me to find the heavenly monster secret realm at this time. With my current strength, this is the best time to subdue the demons in the secret realm. He took a deep breath. Although there were millions of demons in the heavenly monster secret realm, he had long known that the demons in the secret realm were restricted by the purple moon. No, it could be said that the demons in the secret realm could only reach the peak of the Yaodan realm in their lifetime. Then, they would never be able to advance. They could only regretfully exhaust their lifespan and die in the secret realm. This meant that the most powerful demons in the secret realm were only at the peak of the Yaodan realm. They had not transformed into demons, nor had they entered the 9th transformation of Yaodan. The gap between them and Di Shitian was like a chasm. The gap between the peak of the Yaodan realm and the 3rd transformation of Yaodan realm was 4 whole realms. Every realm was like a chasm, let alone 4. If he wore the Supreme Emperor mask and advanced another realm, he would be at the 4th transformation of Yaodan realm, the ancient Demon King realm. The only thing missing was the formation of a domain. At this moment, even if it was difficult to subdue the demons in the secret realm, with his absolute strength, he would definitely be able to subdue them. If this was not the best time, when would it be? He forcefully suppressed the joy in his heart. His body moved and he quickly rushed to the mountain peak in the east. Altar. An octagonal altar with 3 levels, ascending in order. It was about the height of a person, but in the center of the altar, there was a purple ball of light the size of a person's head. The ball of light exuded a kind of power of the origin. It is indeed the heavenly monster secret realm. Di Shitian said with certainty when he saw the purple ball of light. He had entered the secret realm before and had even walked through the entire Wenshin Road. He was very familiar with the aura of the secret realm. It was not easy to be sure from afar, but once he got close, the familiar feeling appeared clearly in his mind. Subdue, you must subdue them. 1,000,000 demons, this amount would not even be a blister in the ancient times, but in today's mainland, it is the most precious wealth. 1,000,000 demons who have reached the peak of the demonic beast realm. TSK, if you bring them out after subduing them, with the power of the Linglong treasure pagoda, it will not take long for you to have an army of 1,000,000 demons. And they will all be true demons who have formed their inner cores. Ming shouted excitedly, at that time, your power will be unique among the demons in the purple gold mainland. The myriad demon valley will become the holy land of the demons, and the myriad demon city will become the holy city of the demons. Thinking of the situation after subduing the demons in the secret realm, even Ming was full of yearning. The process of climbing to the peak step by step was the most shocking. It could stimulate endless fighting spirit and endless hot-bloodedness. I have been waiting for this day for a long time, Di Tian said loudly and powerfully. Following that, he walked up the sacrificial altar and came to the front of the purple ball of light. His body collided with the purple ball of light. Not only did this collision not cause a violent collision, instead, a layer of dense divine light burst out from the purple ball and covered Sakura. Following that, it shrunk back and brought him into the purple ball. It is indeed the heavenly demon secret realm. As soon as Zhongxian entered the dungeon, a bright light flashed before his eyes. When he reappeared, he was already in an empty space. However, he didn't panic. Instead, he gathered a clump of demonic qi beneath him to support his body. Then, he calmly surveyed his surroundings. Below him was a vast expanse of mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see. Ancient trees that towered into the sky stood tall, and there were numerous mountain ranges that were connected together like horned dragons. The surroundings were covered in shade, and they emitted exuberant vitality. There were all kinds of flowers, plants, and trees. From the looks of it, it was a completely independent small world, a small world. Although there was no sun in the void, there was a purple moon hanging in the sky. From the purple moon, there were traces of moonlight sprinkling down, nourishing the world below. Looking down, the moonlight turned into countless purple light spots and gathered in various places, as if it was being led there. Obviously, there was a living creature absorbing the moonlight to increase its cultivation. Howl! Suddenly, a high-pitched eagle cry pierced the sky and resounded through the forest. Looking towards the direction of that sharp cry, in the sky, there was a golden-winged great rock condor that had spread out its wings, which was 3 to 4 feet wide. It was currently staring sharply at Sakura with its pair of pale golden eyes. Every feather on its body was emitting a faint golden light, and every feather was as sharp as a blade. It looked extraordinarily beautiful. Howl! The long cry pierced the sky and broke the silence of the secret realm. Suddenly, on a steep cliff, there were gusts of wind. Huge golden-winged rock eagles flew out of the cave wall. When they gathered together, they looked like a golden cloud. It was vast and unparalleled. There were 30 to 40,000 of them. Every one of them was overflowing with a strong demonic aura. At the top, a gigantic golden-winged rock eagle with a body of 30 to 40 feet flew out. With just a light flap of its wings, waves of sharp wind blades were stirred up beneath its body, tearing apart the void beneath it. Today, my head is a little dizzy, and I want to lie down on the bed and sleep. I hope brothers can be more considerate of the author's hard work. Maybe when you read it, you can finish reading 3,000 words in a few minutes, but it took me at least 2 hours to write it. If you have the ability, I hope you can support the original and subscribe to a few more chapters. As for the other brothers, I hope you can help to vote for a few recommendation votes while reading the book. After all, recommendations are free. Anyway, I have to continue writing the second chapter. I have never slept before midnight every day. Chapter 439. The 9 clans of the mystic realm. Even among the tens of thousands of golden-winged giant rocks, it could not hide its elegance. Its majestic aura made all the giant rocks respectfully fall behind it, not daring to overtake it. Among the group of giant rocks, there was a kingly aura. Obviously, this was the golden-winged giant rocks. Just by flapping its wings, it could stir up a gust of wind and let out a shrill cry. Its strength was far beyond that of the other giant rocks. Especially its eyes, which were like sharp blades. When it landed on one's body, it was as if a knife was cutting one's flesh, causing waves of piercing pain. It was terrifyingly sharp. Being stared at was like a blind needle in one's back. There was a faint sense of immense pressure. Whoosh! Not only the giant rocks in the sky, but the giant rocks pierced through the sky and spread out in all directions as if this was a warning sign. On the spot, there was a rustling sound in the forest, and a large number of creatures quickly walked out. They were groups of people wearing animal skins. No, from the demonic aura that overflowed from their bodies, one could tell that they were not humans at all, but the most orthodox demon clan. One group after another. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of demon clan members walked out of the forest. These demon clan members did not all gather together. Instead, they were divided into several distinct camps. Like the golden-winged giant rocks, they gathered according to their race. Every time they gathered in a large circle, almost every group belonged to a different race. Even the aura that they emitted was different. Not long after, more than 1 million demon clan members had gathered in the open space in front of the forest. Looking at their division, they were vaguely divided into 8 largest groups. Outside of these 8 groups, there were some other smaller groups gathered in the surroundings. It was clear that these 8 largest groups were the leaders. No, it should be said that there were 9 groups. There was also the group of great golden-winged peng eagles circling in the sky. Jin Xian, why did you suddenly warn us? In one of the 8 groups below, there was a white-haired old man whose eyes flashed with wisps of wisdom. He held an emerald walking stick in his hand. Behind him, there were 70,000 to 80,000 demon clan members. The strange thing was that most of those demon clan members were beautiful women. Even the men were handsome young men. They all had a unique charm that made people want to take a second look at them. He could not bear to look away. From their auras, it was clear that they were indeed from the same clan. The leading old man asked the golden-winged great eagle king who was circling in the sky. Who, look up there. An unfamiliar expert has suddenly appeared. I can sense a strong threat from him. The golden-winged condor king's name was Jin Xian. His eyes were still fixed on Dai Shitian, who was standing on the demon cloud. There was a strong sense of wildness and battle intent in his eyes. With Jin Xian's reminder, the demons below immediately followed Jin Xian's gaze and looked up into the void. A pitch-black demonic cloud hovered in the air. It carried a burly young man in black robes with a strange blade on his back. There was a vertical purple mark between his eyebrows. The young man stood there casually, but he radiated with the soul-stirring presence of a king. A nameless pressure was naturally emitted from his body. It was so powerful that no one dared to look at him directly for fear of being disrespectful. The invisible pressure made it difficult to breathe. An expert from the outside. Demonic aura. He is an expert from the demon clan. Old Fox pondered for a moment, and his eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of excitement. He looked at Sakura, and the teachings left behind by his ancestors flashed through his mind like lightning. His ancestors had entered the mystic realm to avoid disaster and preserve a part of the bloodline and vitality for the demon clan. When the time came, there would be demon clan experts from the outside to lead them back to the source world, the purple gold mainland. Follow him, follow him. He will make the demon race rise again from the ashes. Once again, he will establish supreme prestige. Could it be that in our generation, that day has really come? Who was extremely excited. He looked up at Dai Shitian, who was standing in the void, and said respectfully, I am the great elder of the Fox clan, Hu Yang. May I ask if you are the demon king chosen by the sky demon? Uproar. Although Hu's old voice was not loud, it immediately reached the ears of all the demon clan members. This sentence was like a thunderbolt that struck the hearts of all the demon clan members. That ancient legend was something that all demonic beasts had to remember from the moment they were born. The arcane pocket realm was not bad, and the violet lightning rain would descend, giving birth to new demonic beasts. However, the most terrifying thing was that in this place, the pinnacle of cultivation was the pinnacle of demonic beasts. Since entering here, no demon clan member had been able to break through this barrier. Hope. The only slim hope was that every time the Sky Demon Mystic Realm opened, there would be an expert from the demon clan who could pass the test of the Sky Demon and rescue them. According to the ancient teachings, the one who could enter here and bring them out would be their king. All the demon clan members in the Mystic Realm must also respect him as their king, listen to his orders, and assist him by his side. Could it be him? Swoosh. Millions of pairs of eyes fell on Dai Shitian at the same time. Who, You said that he is the king that the Sky Demon Lord has chosen for us. A middle-aged man with a dignified aura and a strange coldness in his eyes looked at Hu and then at Di Shitian, who was standing in mid-air and silently observing the demon clans below without saying a word. He was somewhat suspicious. He was the clan leader of the Lion-Scorpion tribe, Shashi. It can't be wrong. Those who can enter the Sky Demon Mystic Realm will definitely not be able to enter unless they pass the Sky Demon Lord's test. Hu said with unusual certainty. Hu was the wise man in the Mystic Realm. He had always been the one to make decisions on matters. In the entire demon clan, he had great prestige. As soon as he said this, many demon clans looked at Di Shitian with a hint of passion in their eyes. I am Di Shitian. I have also passed the Wenshan road set by Lord Purple Moon. After seeing that the demon clans below were mentally prepared for his arrival, Di Shitian knew that it was time for him to show his skills. Standing in the void, he opened his mouth and said a sentence. First, he had to clear his name. In the Mystic Realm, the demon clans would not know the name of the Sky Demon Lord Purple Moon. In their hearts, they would definitely respect her. At this moment, he was announcing his identity and showing that he had a good reason to do so. As expected, the demon clans below all looked up at him solemnly. Their eyes were burning with passion, waiting for Di Shitian to say something. The Sky Demon Mystic Realm was created by Lord Purple Moon to preserve the demon clan's bloodline. It was to ensure that the demon clan's heritage would not be cut off. The bloodlines of all the major clans can be preserved forever. Back then, the human clan rebelled and betrayed our clan. They turned around and attacked us, killing almost all of the elites of our demon clan. The remaining demon clans could only beg for survival on the Purple Gold continent. As for us demon clans, as long as we run into them, we'll take their cores, cut off their bones, and use their flesh to refine pills. Our clan was constantly suppressed, so much so that we declined generation after generation. Di Shitian did not talk about anything else, let alone becoming their king. He only talked about some of the historical legends related to the demon clan that he knew in a vicissitude tone. First, it resonated. As expected, the mystic realm was sealed off from the outside world. How could they know anything else? Now that they heard Di Shitian talk about it one by one. When they heard that the demon clan's situation in the outside world was actually so difficult, not only did they empathize with him, they were even filled with righteous indignation, and their fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. Their eyes were almost spitting fire. Immortal cultivators, the human clan, they want to destroy the entire demon clan. Di Shitian spat out the last sentence in a deep voice. This sentence also completely ignited the anger of the demon clans. Damn the human clan, a bunch of ungrateful things. Back then, if it weren't for the protection of the demon clan, how could they have survived under the ancient savage beasts? Not only do they not know how to be grateful, they repay kindness with ingratitude and want to destroy the demon clan. Bah, even if I have to risk my life, I will kill you bastards. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Kill our way out. What are we still doing here? Even our clan is about to be destroyed. King, since you can pass Lord Ziwa's test, then you are the destined king. With your leadership, the demon clan will definitely rise again. For a moment, the demon clans were enraged. Since they were young, they had heard about how powerful and glorious the demon clan was in ancient times, how they dominated the world and crossed the starry sky. Although they suffered a great disaster in the end and had no choice but to hide here, they did not expect that the demon clan's situation on the Purple Gold mainland would be so difficult. They were almost exterminated. With the wildness that they were emitting, how could they not be filled with righteous indignation? They were incomparably furious. However, the kings of some clans did not shout. As the kings of their clans, how could they be ordinary demon clans? They naturally had more restraint than the other demon clans. None of them spoke. They were the kings of their clans. Whoever wanted to control them would first have to show them something that could convince them to submit. Just by moving a few lips, they would not be able to make them submit. They also had their own pride and would not easily submit to a mediocre person. In the demon clan, The strong were respected. Di Shitian saw everything below and was not surprised that the kings of the various clans did not say anything. He had never thought of subduing these million demon clans with just words. This was just to win over the hearts of the demon clans first. He wanted to get closer to them. That way, it would not be difficult to subdue them. He only needed to convince the kings of the various clans and suppress everything with incomparable strength. Ascend the throne of the demon king. This king needs everyone's strength. Our demon clan cannot continue to be decadent. Rise, we must rise. Let the heavens and myriad worlds see where the courage of our demon clan is. The blood of our ancestors flows in our bodies. Since our ancestors were unhindered in the ancient era, then I, Sakura, have the same confidence to lead everyone to create glory again. Reconstruct the demon race's eternal prestige. Everyone, are you willing to follow this king and fight for the world? Di Shitian's eyes emitted 2 rays of light. His body was filled with the majestic aura of an emperor. Every sentence he uttered made his blood boil. In the end, he even roared out loud. I'm willing. I'm willing. The group of demonic beasts roared loudly. The blood in their bodies was stirred up by these words. They thought about how glorious their ancestors were and then looked at the present. While they felt ashamed, they also felt an endless fighting spirit. Very well. If you want us to follow you wholeheartedly, you won't just need to make empty promises. The demon race respects the strong. If you are strong, why can't we follow you? I finally finished writing. I'm going to sleep now. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 440. Di Shitian had passed the path of reflection and experienced the test of the heavenly demon Ziyu. He was the king chosen by Ziyu. This king was chosen by the many demons in the heavenly demon mystic realm. This was something that the demons in the mystic realm had been taught since birth. It was the teachings of their ancestors, the teachings of their revered Lord Heavenly Demon. Without Ziyu, there would not be today's million demons. Moreover, Ziyu's words had been passed down from generation to generation. By now, they would not forget it even if they died. Those who passed the test of the path of reflection would be the king of the million demons in the mystic realm. At this moment, these words were still deeply imprinted in their minds. Therefore, it was not difficult for them to respect Di Shitian as king. This was the path that Ziyu had paved long ago, waiting for him to accept it. However, the demon race had always been unruly and unruly. What they worshipped was that the winner was the king and the loser was the bandit, and that the strong were respected. If he only used his identity to suppress the millions of demon race here by passing the path of reflection and gaining the recognition of the purple moon, perhaps nothing would happen in a short period of time. However, as time passed, they would inevitably become disloyal and disloyal. Perhaps they would all leave his command at some point. Be it in name or strength, I will become the absolute king of these million demons. Di Shitian carefully looked at the physiques of the demons and found that the demons here all had amazing aptitudes. With his insight, he could see at a glance that although none of them had passed the heavenly tribulation and condensed an inner core, the demon dwellings they opened were all of the mysterious grade. Almost none of them were below the mysterious grade. There were also many outstanding ones who had successfully opened up Earth-grade demon dwellings. Demon dwellings were divided into heaven, earth, mysterious, and yellow. Among them, generally speaking, ordinary demon clan members would be able to open up yellow-grade demon palaces, which had the lowest potential. As for those with outstanding talent and good methods of opening them, most of them would be able to successfully open up mysterious-grade demon palaces. Next would be the elites of the demon clan, and even the current generation's Heaven's Chosen, who could open up Earth-grade demon palaces. Below the Sky grade, each grade of demon dwelling had a great impact on one's achievements. This was because the higher the grade, the more demon chi that could be stored in the demon dwelling. For example, the difference between a yellow-grade demon dwelling and a mysterious-grade demon dwelling was at least 10 times. In the same realm, if a yellow-grade demon dwelling and a mysterious grade demon dwelling cast the same spell, the yellow-grade demon dwelling could only support the casting of the spell once. However, the mysterious grade demon dwelling's demon chi could support the casting of the spell 10 times, or even more. It was obvious how big the gap was. And here, not a single one was of the Huang rank. Almost all of them were of the Xian rank. Some of the kings of the clans were of the Earth rank. Their potential for development in the future was much greater than that of ordinary demon clans. This was an amazing power. Almost in an instant, he had secretly made up his mind. This power must be grasped in his own hands. Even if it took a lot of effort, he must achieve it. Rumble. Di Shitian waved his long sleeves towards an empty space and a black light swept past. Instantly, the earth trembled and the mountains shook. The earth seemed to be under the control of an invisible hand as it trembled violently. A piece of the ground, in the midst of this rumbling sound, quickly rose up at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it rose to thousands of feet. It was like a huge arena. It was thousands of feet wide. Above, it was flat. Di Shitian landed and stood in the middle of the arena. His black hair that was casually draped behind him moved without wind, dancing wantonly. It was just a simple stand, but it was like a sea-stabilizing needle. His majestic aura was naturally revealed. Today, I came here to become the king of this place. If anyone is not convinced, come up. On the arena, we will compete. The winner will be the king, and the loser will be the bandit. If anyone can defeat me, I will hand over my position as the king to him. From today onwards, I will no longer mention anything about being the king of this place. I can also bring you out of this place to the purple gold continent. Whether you stay or leave, it is up to you. If I win, Di Shitian's tiger-like eyes shone with a divine light. His voice was powerful, and with the decisiveness of an emperor, he said, I will be the king of all demons. Good. As soon as Indra finished his words, a cold and stern voice burst out from midair. At the same time, a gust of wind that was as sharp as a blade swept towards him. I am Jin Xian, the patriarch of the golden-winged eagle clan. Let this king see what qualifications you have to be the king of the 9 clans of the secret territory. Before he finished speaking, Jin Xian's original body swooped down ferociously from the void. His 2 sharp claws, which were glowing with a faint golden light, were in the shape of hooks, grabbing towards Di Shitian's head fiercely. His 2 tough wings, which were like iron fans, slapped towards his body at the same time. The strong wind was like a blade. It landed on the arena, and terrifying cracks appeared on the arena. The strong pressure was suffocating. The pair of sharp claws were so sharp that it tore the void under them. The moment he attacked, it was a killing move. His ferocious attack carried an indomitable aura. It was extremely fierce. If it was someone with weak courage, they would have been scared. They might not even be able to use 50% of their strength. If you want to know, then I will tell you. A tyrannical aura burst forth from the sacra. His entire body stood at the same spot, resembling a pillar that supported the heavens, existing for eternity. His eyes didn't even have the slightest intention to evade. There was only boundless majesty being emitted from his body as he spoke word by word, carrying with it a supreme might. He stood proudly. Fight. His right hand clenched into a fist. He did not even use the royal true force. He only relied on the strength of his demon body. His heart was beating violently at a speed of thousands of beats per second. His whole body, every inch of flesh and blood seemed to come alive in an instant. A strong and domineering force was spewing out, and his muscles were like dragons shuttling quickly. A vast amount of power surged into his fist. Boom! Divine light flowed on the surface of his body, making him look like a god. He punched out forcefully. A vast amount of power condensed in his fist. The punch was fragmented and shattered into countless pieces. This was the Di Shitian's 3rd transformation demonic body. Under the tempering of the Emperor's true force and the power of desire, this demonic body was already strong to the point of being able to shatter space with a single punch. Even a tribulation stage expert would not dare to take a punch head-on. Bang! This punch hit the two sharp claws under Jin Xian's body. With a bang, the surrounding space collapsed and was annihilated inch by inch. The golden-winged giant eagle was also a mutant passed down from ancient times. It had the blood of the giant eagle divine bird in its body. Legend had it that every time the giant eagle divine bird was hungry, it would fly to the sea and catch dragons. It would eat 2 dragons at a time. Jin Xian's clan inherited the blood of the giant eagle divine bird. His physical strength was much stronger than that of ordinary demons. But under this punch of the sakura, his body trembled. Even his wings could not flap down as he was sent flying backwards. At the same time, the terrifying power caused the space around him to be annihilated with every inch he retreated. Howl! Jin Xian's eyes flashed with shock, but more than that, there was a kind of anger. He screamed and flapped his wings to stop his body from flying backward. Then, a fierce aura exuded from his body. Rumble! On Jin Xian's 2 golden wings, a dazzling golden light suddenly appeared. In the golden light, countless sharp blade-like feathers flew out from the wings. Under the continuous flapping of the golden wings, a violent hurricane swept up the countless golden feathers like thousands of swords dancing in the air. It formed a golden wave. Roaring, it rushed fiercely toward Di Shitian. It's Jin Xian's innate divine ability, the 1,000-feather meteoric wind. Who was watching the battle below, saw the hurricane formed by countless feathers and could not help but cry out in surprise. The 1,000-feather meteorite wind was not an ordinary divine power. It was said that the giant eagle divine bird inherited the power of the giant eagle divine bird's bloodline. It was a superior divine power. Once it was used, countless feathers would grow from its body. These feathers were as sharp as swords. When they were used together, it was like thousands of swords flying together. Then, there was a hurricane. This wind was very terrifying. When it blew on the mountain rocks, even the mountain rocks would be blown into a layer of dust. If it was a living creature, it would be blown thousands of miles away in an instant. With countless feathers piercing through its body, it would be turned into dust by this terrifying divine power. Moreover, this divine power would grow stronger with the user. When it was strong enough, it could stir up a hurricane with a flap of its wings. It could blow people thousands of miles away, just like the legendary banana fan. Use divine power? What's there to be afraid of? Sakura stood proudly, his feet not moving at all. Looking at the frightening meteoric wind that was blowing towards him, and even the countless sharp feathers that were swept up by the wind, there was a trace of coldness in his expression. Ayo! He was not afraid. He waited until the hurricane was in front of him. When it was just a hair's breadth away from touching his body, he opened his mouth and let out a tiger's roar. The overbearing tiger's roar was like millions of tons of explosives exploding in an instant. With a bang, the arena under his feet trembled violently. Rings of pitch-black sound waves swept out in all directions like a tide. Wherever they passed, they collided with the 10,000-feather meteor wind. Rings of continuous sound waves caused even space to distort. Under the countless vibrations of the sound waves, the feathers that were born were all shattered and annihilated. Jin Xian's innate divine power was blocked by the sound waves of the tiger's roar. He could not take half a step forward. Come down for me. Di Shitian's left foot stepped on the arena, and his body shot up into the air like a cannonball. Like a flash of light, he fiercely appeared above Jin Xian. Bang! His right foot stepped heavily on Jin Xian's back, and a huge force poured down on Jin Xian's body. With this step, even the space under his feet shook violently and roared. The vast force was like Mount Tai. Roar! Jin Xian flew into a rage. The feathers all over his body stood erect, and a huge force gushed out from his body towards Sakura. However, Sakura was still cold. He stepped on Jin Xian's back, and it was as if he had taken root there. The force that burst out from Jin Xian's body didn't even have time to come out before it was directly suppressed back. If you are not convinced, then I will beat you until you are. Di Shitian is advancing towards his goal of being the ancestor of all demons. Rome was not built in a day. Watch the protagonist take the first step, the king of all demons. Brothers, give him some motivation. Chapter 441. Get down. Jin Xian roared violently. Waves of demonic energy rushed toward Di Shitian. At the same time, he shook violently in the air, trying to throw Di Shitian off his back. Who was he? He was the leader of a clan, the king of the clan. Normally, he would be treated with respect wherever he went. No one would dare to show him the slightest bit of disrespect. But now, he was actually being trampled under the foot of someone else. To him, such an action was undoubtedly a form of humiliation. It was simply provoking the gods. His anger could be imagined. Get down. Di Shitian's lips curled into a cold smile. He stepped on Jin Xian's back. Suddenly, it was as if the sky was falling down. A vast and terrifying force was exerted on Jin Xian's body. It was as if thousands of terrifying mountains were pressing down on him at the same time. The terrible gravity made the surrounding air seem a little suffocating. Howl! Jin Xian issued a mournful cry. His two wings emitted a terrifying sound of bones breaking. His body seemed to have been struck by lightning. He could no longer support his body to fly in the air. Like a bird with broken wings, he fell to the ground inch by inch with a mournful cry. With every inch he fell, Jin Xian's eyes showed a look of pain. Bang! After Sakura once again heavily stepped on his body, Jin Xian finally couldn't support himself anymore. Like a weight, he heavily fell down and landed on the arena, creating a deep pit on the spot. Dust flew everywhere and filled the air. Sakura didn't feel the slightest bit complacent about this. With his current cultivation, the third transformation of the monster core, he was about to become an ancient demon king. Against a peak demonic beast whose combat strength was comparable to a demon who had undergone tribulation, it was a common thing to win. If he lost, then he should just find a piece of tofu and kill himself. Do you accept it or not? Sakura asked coldly as he looked indifferently at Jin Xian, who was constantly struggling under his feet but was still unable to break free. His words were mixed with the power that had forced Jin Xian to the ground from the sky. His words carried a terrifying aura. In Jin Xian's ears, it was like the might of the heavens. The arrogance in Jin Xian's eyes gradually calmed down. He recalled the previous battle where Yi Shiwen shattered the void with a single punch. Yi Shiwen destroyed his innate ability with a single roar. Then, Yi Shiwen stomped on the ground without any resistance. Yi Shiwen's terrifying combat strength had crushed his pride again and again. Powerful, incomparably powerful. No matter how he used it, Di Shitian's response was abnormally simple. Obviously, he could easily break through his most powerful attack head-on. He didn't even have the ability to force him to use his full strength. Thinking of this, Jin Xian felt a trace of bitterness in his heart. I lost. He bitterly spat out these words. In this short exchange of blows, he had already clearly understood the gap between them. If they continued to fight, he would only make a fool of himself. The winner takes all, while the loser takes all. A win was a win, and a loss was a loss. Jin Xian accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. Although he felt bitter in his heart, it wasn't difficult for him to say those words. Di Shitian left Jin Xian's back and stepped onto the arena again. Just like before, he stood proudly, and the natural aura of a king that exuded from his body became even stronger. Jin Xian's body flashed, and he turned into a middle-aged man wearing a gold-trimmed robe. He looked very handsome. He had a strong charm that attracted the attention of women. The expression on his face was somewhat dispirited. Obviously, he had suffered a lot of injuries in the previous battle. Who else wants to compete with me? Divine light flickered in Sakura's eyes as he swept his gaze across the millions of demons around him. Wherever his gaze landed, the demons within that area all shifted their gazes away, not daring to look him in the eye. Even the patriarchs of the various clans had ugly expressions on their faces. The battle just now had left a deep impression in their hearts. Shocking. Too shocking. Compared to them, Jin Xian was almost at the same level. Most of the time, when they fought with each other, it would end in a draw. However, Jin Xian's attack was too fierce, and he was slightly stronger than them. Even a gold Xian was defeated so cleanly under Sakura's hands. If they went up, there would be no difference. Thinking about the scene where Jin Xian was smashed into the ground from the air, their faces couldn't help but twitch a few times. They were not on the same level at all. At this moment, looking at Di Shitian again, they felt a great pressure just by standing there. The leaders of the various tribes looked at each other and saw the same thing in each other's eyes. After nodding at the same time, they respectfully knelt down in front of Di Shitian, who was standing on the arena like a pillar that supported the sky, and said, "We are willing to submit to you, our king." Including Jin Xian, the 9 leaders kowtowed loudly in unison. Whether in terms of strength or status, Di Shitian had proven that he was worthy of being the king of demons. "We are willing to submit to you, our king." With the 9 leaders taking the lead, suddenly, the millions of demons around the arena were like golden mountains and jade pillars. Their eyes were filled with respect and reverence, and they followed suit and kowtowed. Di Shitian rose into the air and stepped on the void. With a determined look on his face, he said in a deep voice, "I, Di Shitian, hereby swear that I will lead all of you to reverse the decline of the demon clan. I will lead the demon clan to rise again, and let the name of the demon clan rise again. Whoever dares to stand in my way, I will kill God and Buddha. Whoever is the demon king, I am the demon king, the king of demons." At this moment, the aura of supremacy from his body rose into the sky like a smoke signal, forming a dark cloud above his head. There was a vast pressure in the cloud that swept in all directions like a tide. His body seemed to be covered with a layer of mysterious color. At this moment, he was the king. "Rise, rise, rise to the top of the world, I will kill God and Buddha. Rise, rise, rise to the top of the world, I will kill God and Buddha." Below, the eyes of countless demons were filled with fanaticism, and they shouted crazily, as if they had already seen the scene of him rising to the top of the world. They roared excitedly. Wave after wave, it was endless. Di Shitian's arrival had ignited the blood of the demons in the mystic realm. Their yearning for the outside world had become abnormally urgent. In the belly of a mountain, a huge cave residence had been opened up. There were various decorations in the cave residence, and it had a strong ancient charm. There were various patterns and drawings carved on the stone walls. In the drawings, there were all kinds of scenes, such as the great war of gods and demons, the worship of thousands of beasts, and so on. It seemed to be a record of some kind of historical event. It was unusually mysterious. The cave residence was very big, and it had all kinds of facilities. Some were used for living, some were used for receiving guests, and some were used for practicing martial arts. At this moment, in a spacious hall for receiving guests, Di Shitian was sitting in the main seat. Below them, there were 2 rows of seats on each side. Old Fox, Jin Xian, and the others took their seats one by one and sat down respectfully. The 9 great patriarchs and some patriarchs from other tribes filled up the hall. After a short conversation, Di Shitian had a general understanding of the situation of the demons in the mystic realm. The demons here were divided into different clans, and the 9 clans were the largest. In the entire mystic realm, the 9 clans were the mainstream. It could be said that most of the demons here were from the 9 clans. Moreover, the 9 clans were personally moved in by Ziyu. Her purpose was to protect the 9 clans. After learning about them, Di Shitian understood why Ziyu did not choose the other clans but only the 9 clans. In fact, the 9 clans were the clans with the greatest potential and the most powerful bloodlines among the countless clans of the demon clan. Which 9 clans were they? First, there was the group of golden-winged giant rocks that Jin Xian belonged to. There were 40 to 50,000 of them, and they had the bloodline of the golden-winged giant rocks. They were extremely fierce in the sky and were the top among the demon birds. Once they succeeded in cultivation, they would be far stronger than ordinary demons. In the end, they could even eat the flood dragons. This was a clan. Then there was the Fox clan that who belonged to. The Fox clan was not just an ordinary clan. There were various special fox clans, such as the Snow Fox, the Nine-Life Fox, the Fire Fox, and so on. All kinds of fox clans had gathered to form this large clan. Moreover, foxes were known for their intelligence and had a unique talent in cultivation. Unfortunately, There was no nine-tailed celestial fox, the king of the fox clan, here. The nine-tailed celestial fox was the most noble existence in the fox clan. This was another clan. Next was the lion clan of the 5 elements. Almost every member of the lion clan had amazing talent. Every one of them was born with the attributes of the 5 elements. Because of their attributes, they were given a magical ability to escape from substances of the same attribute as them. They were born with the ability to escape from the 5 elements. For example, an earth lion had the ability to escape from the earth when it was born. The others were the same. They were very strange. Then there was the plant clan. This clan had an extremely long lifespan. There were even elders in the clan who were still alive. Every time the purple thunder rain came, a group of plant elves would be born. They often had all kinds of magical abilities. This was the 4th clan. They were all big clans in the mystic realm. Then there was the dragon snake clan that lived in the flood dragon pool. Although they were called dragon snakes, they were no different from flood dragons. They just had the blood of the dragon clan in their bodies and cultivated the 9 dragon transformation incantation. According to the cultivation method, they could constantly stimulate their blood and transform into dragons. Once they cultivated, they would completely transform into the body of a divine dragon. The possibility of them transforming into dragons was higher than that of flood dragons. After all, flood dragons did not have the opportunity to transform into dragons. They would be flood dragons for life. To be continued. If you want to know more, please go to www.chidyen.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 442. Moreover, the 6th clan also had an extraordinary origin. Their bloodline advantage was not inferior to any other clan. They were called the Dragon Horse clan. According to ancient legends, the dragon horse was born from the water and had the bloodline of the dragon clan. Their nobility was not inferior to the dragon clan. Although their body shape was that of a horse, they had a single horn on their head. This horn was a dragon horn. It was a characteristic of the bloodline of the dragon clan. Because of this single horn, the dragon horse was also called a unicorn in the eyes of the world. Every dragon horse had a mystical power. The source of its power, the most powerful part, was its dragon horn. They liked beautiful things and were the closest to the fox clan. The 7th clan was the peacock clan. In this clan, they inherited the bloodline of the first peacock in the world. Their bloodline was also incomparably powerful. It was said that the first peacock had remarkable supernatural powers, especially the 5 divine lights behind him. They were called the 5-colored divine lights. As long as it was in the 5 elements, no matter if it was a magic treasure or a living creature, nothing could escape from his divine feathers. It was a supernatural power that defied the natural order. The 8th clan was called the one-legged ox clan. They were shaped like an ox, with a white body and no horns. They had a foot under their body. When they went in and out of the water, there would be wind and rain. Their eyes were like the sun and moon, and their voice was like thunder. They were called the Kuei ox. They were very fierce. Although the one-legged ox clan here was called the one-legged ox, they only had the blood of the one-legged ox in their bodies and were its descendants. They were not the real one-legged ox, but they also had some supernatural powers of the one-legged ox. They were not inferior to the other major clans. The last clan was called the Giant Bear clan. Each of them was born huge and tall like a giant. When they reached adulthood, each of their bodies would naturally grow to 300 to 400 feet. If they cultivated, their bodies would grow even more. They liked to fight hand-to-hand and were born with divine strength. They could pull up a mountain with a stretch of their hand. However, most of the people in this clan were straightforward and did not have any tricks up their sleeves. However, they were easily irritable. Once they were angered, the area within 100 miles would be flattened in an instant. The 9 great clans were heavily migrated by Zu in the past because the bloodline in their bodies was extremely powerful. Once they cultivated to a high level, the power of their bloodline would be aroused. Among those of the same level, they were almost the top existences. 4 ordinary demon clans, even 10 of them might not be able to defeat them. Their future potential was far greater than that of ordinary demons. This was also the reason why they were moved here. Of course, other than the 9 clans, there were other clans in the secret realm. After all, many ordinary animals had been moved into the secret realm in the past. There were many kinds of animals. Under the magical power of the purple thunder rain, some of them had spirituality and obtained opportunities in the rain and turned into demons. Therefore, other races also occupied a portion of the demon clan in the mystic realm. There were a total of 1,340,000 demons in the mystic realm. Among them, most of them were powerhouses who had reached the peak of the demonic beasts. There were also some newborn demons born in the recent abnormal purple thunder rain, but their physiques were all extraordinary. Fox Clan's first elder, Fox Spirit greets my king. According to the Fox Clan's rules, the position of the Fox Clan's leader was taken up by the 9-tailed celestial fox, but there was none here. Therefore, Hu, the Fox Clan's Grand Elder, was the most respected leader. After the introductions, Hu and the others stood up at the same time and bowed respectfully to Di Shitian again. His expression was solemn and dignified. It was as if this bow represented the true allegiance of the entire clan to him. Great Rock Clan's first elder, Jin Xian, greets my king. Jin Xian followed closely behind and said. He had personally asked Di Shitian for advice, so he was the one who understood Di Shitian's valiant strength the most. The strong were respected. Now that he had acknowledged Di Shitian as his master, his tone was no longer as arrogant as before. Instead, there was a kind of sincere submission. Wood Elf Clan's elder, Mu Kuei, greets my king. I'm willing to follow my king and open up a new world. Mu Kuei was an old man, and his eyes were as wise as Hu's. Mu Kuei was the leader of the Wood Elves. Dragon Horse Clan's first elder, Long Yu, greets my king. My Dragon Horse Clan will follow my king's orders from now on. The Dragon Horse Clan's first elder was an extremely handsome young man with an amiable smile on his face. It made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze and couldn't help but feel close to him. His name was Long Yu. Although he looked young, he had lived for hundreds of years. Sometimes, things couldn't be judged from the surface. I, the Kuei cow, don't know how to speak, but I'm willing to follow my king to conquer the world. The Kuei cow clan's first elder was named after the Kuei cow. He was a tall and burly man with bronze-colored skin. His muffled voice carried a kind of straightforwardness. As long as this kind of person said something, even 10 horses wouldn't be able to pull him back. The weight of his words could be said to be heavy. Lion Clan's Shi Tian will follow my king's orders. A majestic middle-aged man nodded solemnly and kowtowed to show his submission. Dragon Snake Clan's Shui Linger greets my king. Surprisingly, the strongest expert of the Dragon Snake tribe was a stunningly voluptuous woman. Her figure was exceptionally seductive, especially her snake-like waist. When she swayed, one's saliva would flow out, and one's soul would float out of one's body. Her appearance was only slightly inferior to Chen Shi and Bai Hu. Peacock greets my king. It was another woman. Peacock was dressed in a rainbow-colored robe. Her face had a touch of indifference, as if her temperament was like this. However, she still bowed. She represented the Peacock clan to show her submission. She acknowledged his identity as the king of demons. I, Xiong Ba, also represent the Bear clan to greet my king. Xiong Ba was even taller than the Kuei cow. Even if he was sitting, he was like a small giant, looking very simple and honest. He grinned and said loudly. His voice was like thunder, reverberating in the hall. It was so loud that there were bursts of rumbling sounds. Everyone, please rise. Di Shitian sat on the throne above in an imposing manner. Hearing the words of submission from the 9 clans one after another, he was secretly delighted in his heart. However, he didn't reveal the slightest bit of it on his face. Instead, he revealed a kind of dense majesty. He nodded slightly and asked Hu and the rest to return to their seats. This time, my main purpose in coming here is to bring everyone out of the secret realm and return to the purple gold mainland. Di Shitian didn't waste his breath and said his main purpose in a deep voice. Now that he had become the king of demons in the secret realm, they were his subordinates. Naturally, he had to bring them out of here. After all, there was a terrible restriction in the secret realm that prevented them from breaking through the realm of demons. Staying here, they would never be able to improve their strength. This was not what he wanted. What he wanted was a group of subordinates who could follow him and conquer the universe, not a group of weak demon beasts. It was imperative to help them improve their strength. He also knew that these demon clans in the mystic realm were not necessarily of the same mind as him. They would not even dream of completely subduing them in such a short period of time. The first step was just to subdue them. In the future, as long as he maintained his dominance and was so strong that no one dared to think of betraying him, he would use other methods to win their loyalty bit by bit. I'm now a third transformation realm Yarrow core. With the ultimate emperor mask, I'm an ancient demon king. Even if Hu and the rest leave, I'll give them the Linglong treasure pagoda to reverse time and space to cultivate. They won't be able to threaten me in a short period of time. By the time they reach my current realm, I'll have cultivated to a higher level. Di Shitian's mind spun quickly. King, whose calm eyes flashed with a shocking light. He looked at Di Shitian with a trembling voice and said, "We can really leave the secret realm?" His face was full of anticipation and anxiety, as if he was afraid that it was just a joke. Even Jin Xian and the rest had the same expression. They had waited for too long, so long that they didn't know how many ancestors' skeletons had been buried in the ancestral land. If they didn't leave, what awaited them would be a miserable old death. This kind of death, to them, was a kind of tragedy. Suddenly hearing that they could leave, their bodies couldn't help but tremble. That's right. Since I can come in, I naturally have a way to leave. Now, please return to your clans and tell them to pack up the things you need to take away. I'll give you 3 days to prepare. After 3 days, I'll let you leave the secret realm. Di Shitian's expression was full of determination and confidence. Those who saw it couldn't help but feel a sense of trust in him. Di Shitian wasn't lying. Since entering the secret realm, he felt that he could do whatever he wanted in the secret realm. He could control everything in this small world. And this ability to control the secret realm was completely given to him by the mark he had obtained after walking through the Wenshin Road. It seemed that the mark was a kind of recognition. In this state, he felt that he could easily send any of the demon clan members in the mystic realm out. After receiving Di Shitian's notice, Hu and the others bid farewell and hurriedly returned to their clans, excitedly packing up the things they were going to take away. TSK. Lunatic Di, now you really have a strong foundation to lead the demon race to a new height. When these million demons grow up, they will be a great help to you. The 9 major clans, TSK, they were all famous clans in ancient times. That girl Ziua left you a lot of wealth. When Di Shitian had subdued the million demons and become the king of myriad demons, Dark hadn't interfered much. She had only watched quietly. Only now did she speak in a tone that said, "You've got a great deal." What was wealth? Having a group of subordinates with strong potential was the most precious wealth. To build the 1,000-demon city, it wasn't something that Sakura could do alone. He had to have that kind of powerful force and deep foundation to achieve the reputation of the 1,000-demon city. It's time to go to the myriad demon sect and take Mother back. After leaving the secret realm, Di Shitian looked up at the sky, his eyes abnormally deep. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 443. Mother. He looked into the void, as if he could see through the boundaries of time and space, and see the scene of the past. Yes, the white tiger's mother was indeed not as intelligent as humans, and she did not transform into a demonic beast. However, during the time they spent together, that great maternal love was something that he would never forget. The white tiger was unable to speak, but she was using her actions to fulfill her responsibilities as a mother. She was silently caring for her 3 children. That kind of motherly radiance had actually broken his heart back then. Every time she fed him milk, taught him how to hunt, and used her body temperature to protect him from the cold. Every scene had been deeply imprinted in his heart. Not saying anything did not mean that he did not care. He just silently savored the thick warmth. Even though more than 10 years had passed, the appearance of the white tiger was still clearly imprinted in his mind. Mother, brother. Thousand Beasts sect. Di Shitian's gaze became deeper and deeper. His hands were tightly clenched into fists at some point in time. His fingernails dug into his flesh, and faint golden blood flowed out. However, he did not care at all. A cold and fierce expression appeared on his face. The hatred for his mother and brother being kidnapped by the Thousand Beasts sect had been buried deep in his heart for more than 10 years. He had endured until now, so that one day, he would have the powerful strength to return this monstrous hatred to the Thousand Beasts sect. It's been more than 10 years, almost 20 years. Thousand Beasts sect, if I, Di Shitian, don't turn your world upside down, how can I get rid of the hatred that has accumulated in my heart for almost 20 years? It's fine if my mother and brother are fine. If something happens to them, I will even dig up your ancestral graves. Di Shitian said with a ruthless and cold tone, the 7 sins divine melody was prepared for you. I will not leave even a chicken or dog alive in your Thousand Beasts sect. Lunatic Di, do you really intend to take over the Thousand Beasts sect? Nether suddenly interjected and asked. However, his tone did not have any intention of dissuading Di Shitian. Instead, it was filled with anticipation. He wasn't someone who knew how to be tolerant. That's right, as a son, I let my mother suffer for 10 years without knowing if she was dead or alive. I am already unfilial. Now that I have the qualifications to go to the Thousand Beasts sect, if I let my mother and my brothers suffer, then how can I still live in this world? Di Shitian said without hesitation, his voice filled with determination. He, of course I won't stop you from saving your mother, but before you go to the Thousand Beasts sect, I think you should first build the foundation of the Thousand Beasts city. If you're fast enough, you might be able to create a rough framework of the demon city. Then, you can integrate the restriction of the God-imprisoning sphere into it. Who knows, it might be of great help. Nether cried out in anticipation. As for the ancient divine city it saw on the Tianji Wanshu diagram, it still couldn't forget about it even now. It was looking forward to the completion of the 4 heavenly gates and erecting them in the 4 directions. It would also take the cloud-gathering banner to gather the clouds and lift up the divine city. That would be an unprecedented scene. Just the thought of it made his blood boil. Even he couldn't help but urge Di Shitian to act quickly. Build. The Thousand Beasts city must be built. Di Shitian said decisively. However, even if the foundation of the Thousand Beasts city is really built, it can't be exposed to the Thousand Beasts sect. I will go to the Thousand Beasts sect personally. He knew very well that the construction of the demon city was definitely a huge project. Although he had already refined the 7 orifices exquisite pot that could refine divine crystals, he still needed a vast amount of materials to fuse with the power of incense and wish power. This project was definitely not something that could be described casually. One had to know that the mountain of materials he used previously only produced a few cubes of divine crystals, and they were all low-grade divine crystals. He wanted to use all the high-grade divine crystals to build the Thousand Beasts city. That kind of consumption was terrifying. He didn't have any extravagant hopes that he could build something in a short time. It might take 10 years, 100 years, or even 1,000 years to build it. Strength. He still needed to accumulate strength. He clenched his fists tightly and secretly made up his mind. Looking around, the reversal of time in the 3rd heaven was already 100 times faster. Previously, he had only spent 12 years in the 2nd heaven. According to the plan, he had to cultivate in seclusion for a year in the outside world. The 2nd heaven was 50 years, so in the 3rd heaven, it would be 100 years. Excluding the previous consumption, he could cultivate in seclusion for another 70 to 80 years in the 3rd heaven. In this period of time, I must at least raise my cultivation to the peak of the 3rd transformation of the monster core. Time flew by quickly as he secretly made up his mind. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. 3 days later, Di Shitian sent Hu and 1,000,000 beasts out of the secret territory as promised. They entered the exquisite pagoda. The beasts were excited, but their cultivation was too low. Once they came out, they were directly sent to the first heaven by the exquisite pagoda. They enjoyed a cultivation speed 10 times faster inside. Out of the secret territory, almost every beasts did not waste any time. They greedily looked for a place to cultivate. Feeling that the shackles in their bodies had completely disappeared, and their strength was clearly increasing. Many beasts were so happy that they even shed tears. The bitterness of the past was not enough to be told to outsiders. As for the few strongest gold Shen experts, they immediately attracted the form transformation beast's tribulation and officially began to transform into beasts. Of course, this form transformation beast's tribulation had been accumulated for countless years. They had cultivated in the beast realm for countless years, and had long built a solid foundation. There was almost no danger as they went through the tribulation and condensed an inner core in their bodies. With regards to all these, Sakra was secretly rejoicing in his heart. The stronger they were, the stronger his own forces were. He was at ease as he cultivated in seclusion in the third heaven. Every day, he used the royal true force to refine his body and sharpen his blade skills. He constantly absorbed the power of desire and the power of heaven and earth to strengthen the Black Lotus. Because it had been refined once after the breakthrough, it became purer. However, in terms of quantity, it was almost half of the royal true force. He wanted to fill the empty Black Lotus with true force in this period of time. The western end of the purple gold continent, there was a mysterious place called the Realm of Beasts. It was said that this realm of beasts had countless different kinds of beasts. They were extremely ferocious. There was a country called the Great Luo country nearby. There were some villages and towns nearby. A few bold people entered the realm of beasts out of curiosity and disappeared, never to come out again. Later, there were cultivators who came out and said that there were ferocious beasts everywhere. After entering, there was only a slim chance of survival. It was a dangerous place. Since then, no one dared to casually enter this strange mountain forest. The realm of beasts was extremely vast. There were several towering peaks in it. Huge halls and courtyards were built on top of the peaks. On top of the peaks, there were all kinds of powerful beasts running around wantonly. Moreover, on each of the peaks, there were large groups of people wearing green robes with the same style of jade ornaments on their waists. Obviously, they were disciples of the same sect. Looking at the bottom of the mountain, there was a towering stone tablet that was hundreds of feet tall. At the top of the stone tablet, there was a sculpture of a mysterious beast head. On the stone tablet, there were 3 ancient characters engraved in flamboyant calligraphy: Realm of Beast. At the bottom of the mountain, there was a large group of disciples who were busy cultivating the fields. In the fields, there were large amounts of spirit grains and spirit plants. This area was located on a large-scale spirit vein. The spirit energy emitted from the spirit vein transformed the land into a miraculous spirit land. Even the soil in this spirit land could emit spirit energy. It was the most suitable for growing spirit plants. These spiritual items were for the disciples of the sect to eat. Spiritual grains and spiritual items contained spiritual chi. Eating them was extremely beneficial to one's cultivation. However, these tasks were usually left to the outer sect disciples. This type of disciple was the most numerous. At a glance, there were no less than 100,000 disciples. The realm of beasts had an extremely deep foundation. This was the kind of power and style that only a large sect with a long history could have. How could an ordinary sect support 100,000 disciples? The realm of beasts had 6 peaks and 1 main peak. On the main peak, there was a valley that was covered with countless restrictions. In the valley, countless iron chains were clanking. There was a faint tyrannical tiger roar coming from inside, causing the entire valley to shake violently. Senior Sister Yoon, is this the guardian divine beast that our sect has been cultivating? It's pure white with a pair of wings on its back. Could it be the Four Directions divine beast white tiger that we've been cultivating? A curious and excited voice sounded in the valley. Yes, I heard from Master that he has found a way to stimulate the blood in some spirit beasts. This white tiger is only one of them. There are 3 more, the azure dragon, the black tortoise, and the vermilion bird. After successfully taming them, they will be the guardian divine beasts of our realm of beasts in the future. They can even form the powerful Four Directions divine beast formation. Senior Sister Yoon said proudly. She was obviously very proud of her sect. In the valley, there were thick iron chains that extended from the mountain peak. There were no less than 7 or 8 of them. Each of them was incomparably tough and gave off a faint green light. A huge white tiger that was more than 100 feet tall was bound in the valley. This white tiger was truly awe-inspiring. A pair of snow-white wings grew out of its back, exactly the same as the western white tiger of the 4 mythical beasts in the legends. However, its body carried a dense murderous aura. It did not need to do anything at all to frighten those with weak abilities to the point that their liver and guts were about to burst. Its 4 claws, neck, wings, tail, and even the tiger's body were all wrapped with tough iron chains. The white tiger's eyes were filled with a fierce look. It shook its body violently, causing the iron chains to become taut. Its terrifying divine power caused the entire valley to shake violently. There was only a fierce look in its eyes. There was no sense of reason or spirituality. In front of it stood 2 women. They were holding pieces of bloody meat in their hands. They threw them in front of the white tiger. Their eyes were shining with admiration. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidyen.com. There are more chapters. I support the author. I support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.